Welcome into the Week 12 Start Sit Show. Ryan, it's a nice day. We don't have to worry about the Bills getting ran all over by Jonathan Taylor. That's now on you, Tampa Bay. Have fun with that one. Thanksgiving is past us. Thanksgiving night was great. Ryan, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was good, man. Nice to see a lot of family members again and just kind of relax and kick back. I'm on a little mini vacation from work, so just been kind of nice to just kick back and relax and enjoy the food, enjoy the games, the ones that were somewhat enjoyable, mainly the Bills game for me, but wasn't a huge fan of some of the officiating, but it is what it is with that. So just here ready to go for Week 12 and get the rest of the games going.
Yeah, officiating's been real dicey. Real dicey. Every game. College football, it doesn't matter. It just seems like officials are a little out there right now. We got an early question, so we'll hit it before we get into any discussions. Delusional Tanner has, would you start Michael Pittman or Miles Sanders in a half PPR flex? He's already starting Keenan, McLaurin, and Lockett in the wide receiver spots, and Eckler and Swift in the running back spots. Thanks. I do have a league that I got. Well, I wouldn't say you would call it Swift, but I also had Swift in a league, and that injury kind of killed me. Luckily, it looks like it's pretty unserious. He's day to day. I know some people kind of freaking out on Twitter, but in day to day was definitely better than what I thought it was going to be. But his main question, which is, would you start Michael Pittman or Miles Sanders, Ryan? I honestly started Swift already. I feel like you're going to have to chase upside here. And for me, that's Miles Sanders, just with the way that offense has operated the last couple of weeks, and it has been effective doing so. Just more ways to get involved. I know Pittman gets a relatively soft secondary in Tampa, but that defense is still not something to take lightly, in my opinion. I don't think that they're like an easy matchup. So with the corners that the Giants are able to deploy on Devonta Smith and that receiving core in general, I feel like they're probably going to use Miles Sanders quite a bit in this one. So for me, I'm going with Miles Sanders. Yeah, he already has Miles Sanders in his flex spot currently, but he is back and forth. I would agree with you, Ryan. I'm kind of in a similar, not necessarily the same players, but one is the same in Michael Pittman in a couple of my leagues. I'm kind of torn on what I want to do with Michael Pittman this week. I feel like on paper, the matchup's pretty good against the corners in Tampa Bay. They've been a little bit leaky on the wide receiver side. However, I worry that Wentz isn't going to have the time to make the throw. I know the offensive line's pretty solid, but the Bills were able to get some pressure on Carson Wentz last week, and he didn't really succeed as far as getting the ball down the field. So I worry that the situation will be the same here against Tampa. So I'm a little worried on Michael Pittman, but I'm going to shoot Miles Sanders here as well, facing off against, I think, the 31st or 32nd ranked rush defense in the NFL. And coming back, I think even the half PPR. So you're not even getting a full from Michael Pittman. I mean, if you want to look at a team that was, I think Tampa's in the middle of the road when it goes to points to receivers. So I'm going to take that bottom half team in the Giants and risk it with Miles Sanders. I think the Eagles are going to come out. It's a big game for the Eagles. They got to get this win. And I think that Miles Sanders will be involved heavily in at least somewhat of the passing game as well as the rushing. So I'd leave Sanders in there, Tanner.
If you want to look at what they've given up, the Giants are 27th against the run right now in terms of PPR scoring with 27 points a game, averaging over 4.5 yards per carry. And Tampa is the 12th best against wide receivers averaging only 34.9 points per game. So,
yeah, I was going to say, Tampa's gotten a lot better. Like at the beginning of the year, they were really, really bad against wide receivers, but they have gotten better. I don't know if it's just due to competition, like maybe the other teams aren't putting up the points on the wide receivers, but yeah, I like Sanders. I think it's a better matchup. And I just feel like that's kind of the route that the Eagles are going to take, is attacking the ground like that over Devonte Smith against, say, like Bradbury or something. So, no problem, Tanner.
And if you're looking, I'm watching NFL Game Day Live as we're doing this, and Miles Sanders is a play of the day for K from NFL Game Day. So that was just waiting.
Endorsed. We'll take the endorsements now, NFL.
It's co-signed.
Garrett has Marquis Brown or Rashad Bateman PPR. Scared to start Brown coming off of an injury. Garrett, I think it's dependent on what you want to chase, I guess. Rashad Bateman seems a little safe. I just feel like he's 8 targets, 5 receptions, 80-ish yards with 0 touchdowns. Kind of seems to be his stat line this season. I don't know how much better it really does get. We might see an increase a little bit, but I just think if I really want the upside, it's going to be Marquis Brown. He's kind of that deep threat. He's the big play guy, and he's the one who's going to score you that 40, 30-yard touchdown over Rashad Bateman. Rashad Bateman kind of seems like a chain mover at the moment in this offense. So depending on what you feel like you need, if you need a safe PPR floor, Rashad Bateman probably gives you 6-7 points, which isn't a lot, but it's safe. Where I think Marquis Brown, if you're that worried about the injury, I could see going to Bateman, but I still think it's Marquis Brown for me. I just think the upside's too good, as well as the floor. I mean, with Lamar Jackson in there, I know it's a tough game against Cleveland, but I think that Marquis Brown has the bigger game this week. How about you, Ryan? Oh, stuffy.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna agree with you for Marquis Brown just because we've seen him do it. But obviously the injury is a concern. You never really feel 100% comfortable starting a wide receiver coming off of an injury. But when you look at Marquis Brown, he's a guy that when he's playing and when he's healthy, he is getting targeted a ton. I mean, before last week against Chicago that he missed, he saw 13, 12, 14. He saw a down week against the Chargers, which is a tough defense, and got 5 targets, but then he had 10 targets the following week against Indianapolis. So in 4 of his last 5 games, he's seen double-digit targets. It's where I would leave because he seems to more often and when he's on the field more consistently, and he has that big play, game-breaking ability that we already know he has, where we haven't seen that from Bateman yet.
Yeah, I just think the upside's just way too big on Marquis Brown. You know, like there really isn't. I mean, you could argue Rashad Bateman has upside, but he hasn't shown us that. Marquis Brown has. I mean, he was the wide receiver 5 in like the first 3-4 weeks. I mean, he was just lighting it up. And against some decent defenses, it wasn't even like they were playing a cakewalk of a schedule. So for me, I just think that the upside's too big. I get that there's the injury concern, but every player has injury concern. You never know. You know, Rashad Bateman could go down in the middle of the game. You know what I mean? It's tough. So I think I'm going to risk it there. Definitely roll with Marquis Brown just because you're talking to a guy who can get you 30 points, or Rashad Bateman is going to get you like 15 max. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't see Bateman putting up a 30-point week this week. So where I think Marquis Brown could. So that's where I'm going to go. Brandon has I'm torn on who to start at flex this week. Kendrick Bourne, Chase Claypool, or J.D. McKissick on Monday night. Ryan, it's PPR as well. So, Ryan, how you feeling? J.D. McKissick's an interesting one.
Trying to find a
just in general, not even answering this question, I think J.D. McKissic on Monday night is definitely interesting. I mean, you got Ryan. You're breaking up. You're killing me. I think just on Monday night, it's interesting. J.D. McKissic with it. Seattle's just like a rough. They're a weak rush defense in a game that Washington might be in. Seattle's just not been Seattle. I mean, sitting at 3-7, they've had their struggles with no Russell Wilson. Wilson didn't look great in his couple games back from the finger injury, and I don't know. He's just interesting. That's all I'm saying. But back to the question, Ryan.
Yeah, I was looking at just wide receiver cornerback matchups before the show, just doing my normal research that I normally do, and Christian Fulton is back for the Titans, and he's in the lineup. They offenses have traditionally funneled production to their right side wide receivers, which is Kendrick Bourne for New England. So he could see a ton of targets today. Jacoby Myers is also in a good spot, but Kendrick Bourne is in position to have a better week than what we've seen in past games so far. And the Steelers against the Bengals, I mean, Chase Claypool is the biggest name of this group, obviously, and debatably has the bigger upside, but we just haven't really seen it from him so far this year. And Cincinnati is only allowing the 14th most points to wide receivers so far this year. Their defense has actually been pretty tough in terms of wide receiver production. So with how we've seen that Steeler offense operate, running through Najee Harris and even Pat Freiermuth getting a ton of work, I'm not sure I'm willing to trust Claypool until we just see him get more involved more consistently and just have those big plays. If you're chasing upside, it's probably Claypool just because of what he could be. But I think I like Kendrick Bourne here in the matchup against the Tennessee Titans today.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, Kendrick Bourne, like you had said, even that they're the Titans are a must start almost when you have a wide receiver on your roster playing them.
43 points a game.
But there's also been reports that says that the Titans want to run through Deontay Foreman today.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to see how the Titans manage the game without all of their stars out. Like, is it going to be that New England doesn't touch the ball that much? Is this going to be one of those classic, just real low scoring, kind of non-aired out, just running backs pounding into offensive linemen? Like, is it just going to be like one of those gritty games that doesn't really get much?
Yeah, I mean, it very well could be.
And I just feel like, is Kendrick Bourne high enough on that totem pole? You know what I'm saying? Like, is it going to be? I feel like Nelson Aguilar's kind of had his fair share. Kendrick Bourne sees a fair share. Jacoby Myers sees a share. But then you also have the passing game with the running backs. So, like, I just worry. I feel like Kendrick Bourne's risky. He probably has the biggest upside. Well, probably Chase Claypool has the most upside.
Yeah,
but I kind of still like J.D. McKissic. I know I said it in the beginning that it was just interesting to me. But I feel like I'm willing to risk it here in PPR with Taylor Heineke. Kind of just J.D. McKissic has taken over a role in that offense that just he's more than a pass catching back nowadays. He's bulked up a little bit, and we've seen it all year. It's kind of limited Antonio Gibson. We saw Gibson get a lot of work last week on the ground, but I just think this game's a little bit more back and forth on Monday night, and I kind of want in on J.D. McKissic this week. I think that the PPR upside is going to be there in those short dump-off passes, and it just feels a little bit safer than, say, Kendrick Bourne or Chase Claypool. Like you said, Ryan, like that Steeler offense definitely looks different with all these pieces missing and better pieces coming back. Freiermuth stepping up. Ebron's now out again. And just Roethlisberger's lack of being able to stretch the field necessarily. He looked pretty good in that comeback against the Chargers, but I feel like I want J.D. McKissic out of this group. Why? I don't really know. It's just like a feeling.
I mean,
There's not, it's just a feeling.
Seattle does have definitely has a better matchup for running backs. I mean, in terms of running backs against the wide receivers of the Titans, but I know Seattle's only given up like 3.9 yards per carry so far this year. So he's gonna have to catch passes in order to be viable, I think. So I mean, he is risky because he hasn't seen the typical target share that he's seen before the last couple of weeks. I think he's only seen 6 targets the last 2 games combined, and he was seeing a floor of 6 for weeks leading up to that. So I don't know if it's just the defense that they played or if it's just their offensive philosophy shifting a little bit after the bye week or what. But I'm perfectly fine with either one of them, to be honest with you. I just think Kendrick Bourne, the way that offenses have attacked the Titans when Fulton's in the lineup and they funnel the targets to the right side wide receiver where Kendrick Bourne plays, that's just kind of where I'm leaning, especially with the 2 tight ends being questionable for this game. I haven't seen if either one of them are playing yet, but Johnny
expected to play.
Henry are both questionable, but if they're expected to play, that might shift it a little bit. But I still like Kendrick Bourne in this one. I feel like he scores a touchdown today.
Fair. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying.
You're saying I'm wrong.
David Cruz has, hey guys, need a flex. Devonte Smith, Tyler Boyd, Tevin Coleman, or Dontrell Hillard, PPR league. It has to be Devonte Smith here for me. Yeah. I just feel like what that Falcons, gosh, it's a bird at least. That Eagles offense has done over the past couple of weeks has just been too good. Devonte Smith has been really good in the last couple of weeks as a wide receiver, and I'm not ready to hop off it. I think he's here. I think he's arrived. I know Bradbury could be something that you could argue could scare you away a little bit. I just still think Devonte Smith has a pretty safe double-digit fantasy point floor now in this offense. It just seems to be a little bit clicking a little bit more. I know that there's worry that they've run the ball pretty heavily today against the Giants, but I think Devonte Smith is a must start here. Tyler Boyd to me is just too risky. Tevin Coleman, it could be the Ty Johnson show today. It's going to be interesting to see how that backfield works out without Michael Carter now. And Dontrell Hillard, I worry that Bill Belichick does what Bill Belichick does well and takes away your main option. And as sad as this sounds, it feels like Dontrell Hillard is their main option in that offense at the moment. With no A.J. Brown, no Julio Jones. They're leaning on guys that have produced but are kind of journeyman wide receivers. So I'm just rolling with Devonte Smith. This is the first-round talent, the offense, and what he has been the last couple of weeks, his target share. I mean, he's the guy there in Philadelphia, so I'm going to roll with that. Ryan?
Yeah, this was pretty easy because I was reading it along with you, and there's no question to me it's Devonta Smith. I was reading a stat that him and Dallas Goedert have combined for 61.1% target share in that offense the last 5 weeks. So when Jalen Hurts is throwing, it's either going to Devonta Smith or it's going to Dallas Goedert, or he's just scrambling and using his legs. So for me, if you're in that style of offense, if you're seeing that high of a target share, I'm not willing to bench you, especially for any of these guys that have a much lower ceiling than Devonta Smith has.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like Tyler Boyd's kind of fallen off. He's a guy that normally I would beat the drum on. It just, he has weeks he's on, he's off. This week could be a week that he kind of is on. I feel like, if anything, Pittsburgh struggles a little bit against slot receivers. Not too much, but either way, I just don't want anything to do with that. I feel like they're going to try and pound the rock with Mixon today. And then it's Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. There's just too many options there. I'm going to go with an much more talented and betterly involved player in Rondae Smith. Justin, what is up? And he wants to thank us for the picks last week. You are welcome. Glad it worked out. Didn't necessarily work out for me, but, my teams aren't as good as your guys's, so that's much easier for you guys.
True.
Chasing too much upside in the offseason. Learned my lesson. Justin, Taylor Heineke or Mac Jones? Ryan, where are you on the quarterback spectrum?
See, for me, I think I'm going to roll with Taylor Heineke here, just because of the risks. Like you had said, that game the Patriots Titans game could be one of those games where it's just low scoring, running backs just getting a lot of the work. Especially if Damien Harris and Stevenson are both active. I also have not seen if either one of them are playing yet, but
they're expected to play. Like all the questionable Patriots are expected to play. I saw a report this morning. So
okay, I kind of figured with how they practice, they're all limited most of the week, so I kind of figured they'd play, but I hadn't seen anything for sure. But I just expect them to run the ball a lot. I feel like Heineke is going to be more of a shootout game. He offers a pretty solid rushing floor as well. So in a matchup against Seattle that doesn't necessarily scare you in terms of quarterbacks or wide receivers or middle of the road for both. And I'm hearing that they're supposed to get Logan Thomas back this week. I like Taylor Heineke here over Mac Jones.
Yeah, I agree. I think Taylor Heineke has the upside against Seattle in what should be. It's Monday Night Football. Weird things happen. Washington looked really good against Carolina last week. They looked good against Tampa Bay. And against a tough Carolina defense, Heineke put up 29 fantasy points. He threw 3 touchdowns. So for me, I just think that Taylor Heineke offers you more upside with just as an equal safe floor. I mean, he's had one week under double-digit points, and that was against New Orleans, which is a very good defense, and that was a little bit earlier in the year when they were fully healthy. Mac Jones, to me, he's a very good rookie quarterback. But again, I mean, he's had 2 weeks under 10 points. He's had a majority of his weeks in that 11 to 10 to 12 range. And he's had a few blow-up weeks. And against Tennessee, it could happen, but I see that game being a little bit more on the ground. A lot of Devontae Foreman, a lot of Damien Harris, and just nothing crazy. I don't see him putting up 2-3 touchdowns through the air, maybe one, and a lot of touchdowns on the ground in that game. So I'm going to risk it with Heineke a little bit, just shooting for that 30-point game against Seattle. Justin also has OBJ, Gordon, or Foreman. I'm in on, depending on how much upside you want to roll with, OBJ is your upside play here for sure. He should be much more involved off of the bye week and just getting to know that offense a little bit better. But Melvin Gordon's sneaky play this week, the good old revenge game against a weaker Chargers rush defense. I like Gordon scoring at least a touchdown today, so I would play Gordon, but I wouldn't fault you if you wanted to play OBJ. How about you, Ryan?
For me, this is strictly, again, kind of what you're chasing here. I expect that LA Rams Packers game to be higher scoring. Kevin King's doubtful for the Packers, which would leave their secondary pretty much bare in terms of top end talent. So OBJ would have a ton of upside potential for this one. I did see that coming out of the bye week, Van Jefferson was in an interview saying that they made it a point during the bye week to get OBJ implemented. They're trying to get him involved. And the way that they've struggled the last couple of weeks on offense, they seem like they need that extra playmaker like OBJ can be to get the offense moving. But Melvin Gordon against the Chargers, like you said, revenge game. They are currently 24th against running backs, allowing over 26 points a game, allowing over 4.5 yards per carry at 4.7. So with the split work that he sees with Javonte Williams, I feel like both of them are solid starts. So I feel like if you're chasing, I feel like Gordon has a much safer floor. I feel like OBJ's range of outcomes is much wider than Gordon's is. So if you're chasing the upside, you had a guy like Swift or one of these other guys that went down early or didn't do a whole lot on Thanksgiving Day. You get one of those guys in your lineups and you need the upside, I would probably chase the points with OBJ in that offense. But if you're pretty safe as of right now, or if it's just an even matchup in general, I would probably lean Gordon.
Yeah, I think OBJ could give you 30 points. I think Gordon could get you to that mid-20s. I still think Gordon has upside. I'm not saying that he's going to get you 10 points, and that's kind of all he's got you. I do. I think that, like you said, Ryan, like they're 24th against the run, and I just think that the formula to beat the Chargers is on the ground and through the slot. So I feel like Jerry Judy's going to be involved here. I think Gordon, I think Javonte Williams, they're going to try and run the ball pretty heavily in this game. So it's tough. I think they could equally have upside there, OBJ and Gordon. But OBJ probably just being a wide receiver, I feel like gives you more upside. He could have a much more big plays, and he could score multiple touchdowns. I just worry with Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, there's a lot of options there. So I feel safer with Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I could argue starting OBJ. Brendan, you're welcome. Justin, is Tua over Tannehill and Greg the Leg. Yo, we nailed the kicker.
Did.
Yeah. Kicker experts here. Not really. But
don't do that.
Yeah, everybody will be coming with kicker questions, and then we'll get one right next week. No. Pick 3, Marquis Brown, Keenan Allen, Dante Johnson, Brandon Ayuk, and Devonte Smith. Let's start them all. No. Pick 3. In this situation, I'm probably rolling.
Is this PPR?
Yeah. Brooks, is this PPR? Brooks will come back to you after your answer if it's PPR.
Because that would matter slightly to me, to be honest with you.
Kevlon has 2 questions. Gesicki or Arnold, and who should I flex? Elijah Moore, Brandon Cooks, or Antonio Gibson? This is a good one.
Is a good one.
All right, I'm gonna take Brandon Cooks in the flex position. Only reason is I know Elijah Moore's looked really good the last few weeks. There's been one key factor to that, and that is the quarterback position. So it's either Elijah Moore's getting better, which is probably true. It's probably a little bit of combination of both. But what is Zach Wilson going to bring? You know what I'm saying? I know it's Houston, and I know it's a good matchup. Elijah Moore's looked really good, and he kind of peruses that underneath area, kind of gets deep at times. But I just worry a little bit with Zach Wilson, what this offense is going to look like, because before it didn't look as good as it did in these past few weeks with these other quarterbacks. So I worry with Elijah Moore a little bit. Brandon Cooks feels a little safer against the Jets secondary that's given up a lot of points. Tyrod Taylor is a little bit more safer to me than Zach Wilson. So I'm going to take Brandon Cooks there. I like Antonio Gibson. I just worry he kind of seems touchdown dependent at this point. He doesn't get the passing work. So he just kind of seems, if he scores a touchdown or two, you get a big week. If he doesn't, he gets you like single digits. So, which is really sad because I had high hopes for Antonio Gibson this year.
Yep.
But I'm leaning Brandon Cooks there. How about you, Ryan, for the flex spot?
For the flex, I'm going to lean. I got to lean Brandon Cooks here, just because it's hard to trust more given what we've seen from him with Wilson. He very well could have turned the corner, like you said, but I'm personally not starting him until we see it with Wilson. I know they said that during the injury time off for him, they really worked on his footwork and tried to really fine-tune some mechanic issues that they thought that he was having. So we very well could see him come out and have a really solid game, and Elijah Moore could be the benefactor, giving that Corey Davis is doubtful for this one. But I just like Brandon Cooks in the matchup against the Jets. I mean, they're middle of the road in terms of wide receiver production, but I don't think that the Texans have the running backs to exploit the deficiencies that come with the Jets' rush defense. And Brandon Cooks is just unbelievably talented. He's highly involved no matter what the matchup is. I feel like he's just constantly involved. So for me, I'm going with Brandon Cooks. Like you said on Gibson, I like Gibson personally, but he is touchdown dependent. I mean, he got you 95 yards last week, but didn't score a touchdown or anything like that. So he didn't even get you double-digit points because he didn't have any receptions or anything like that. So the rushing upside is there for Gibson, but the ceiling seems to be pretty capped with McKissick being how they involved there. So for me, I'm going with Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, and that's like I said, I agree there. Tight end, I'm going to take Mike Gesicki. Both have decently tough matchups in Carolina and Minnesota. Gesicki's seen a pretty fair share of targets, as well as Dan Arnold. But Gesicki's done a little bit more with it and probably has a better chance of scoring a touchdown in this game than Dan Arnold will. So I'm going to take Mike Gesicki as far as this tight end position goes. How about you?
This one is tough just because of what we've seen from Dan Arnold as of late. But the zero, I'm pretty sure it was 0 targets last week for Dan Arnold in a game where I thought he was going to be a smash start play. And the other reason why I'm kind of torn between here is that Deion Jones for the Falcons is doubtful for today. And that would be a huge loss for how they cover Dan Arnold. He's their best coverage linebacker. He's probably going to be the guy that saw the majority of the coverage on him. So if he's inactive, I think I might lean Dan Arnold, just because of the upside and the target share that he was receiving before last week. I think last week was more of a blip on the radar as opposed to a pattern that we're going to see moving forward. And Gesicki with their matchup against the Panthers, it's a tough defense. They've been tough pretty much all year. They're 9th in points allowed to tight ends, only allowing 10.6 per game. And from reports, Adam Shaheen is out, so third-round pick Hunter Long is supposed to be playing for Miami today, and they like him a lot. Obviously, they took him in the 3rd round, so he could see an increase in targets. So for me, if Deion Jones doesn't play for Atlanta, I'm personally starting Dan Arnold. But if Deion Jones does play, because he's one of the better linebackers in the league, I would go Gesicki, but I'm leaning Dan Arnold if Jones does not play.
Interesting. Very interesting. I don't hate it. I have a thing with Mike Gesicki, and I like to get hurt. So I just always side with him. Except for in this question, which Ruxy has, which is Gronk or Mike Gesicki, and I'm going to take Gronkowski here. He returned to the lineup last week, and we saw him get 8 targets, 6 receptions for 70 yards. No touchdowns, but he still got you 15 points in most PPR leagues. So I'm going to take Gronk in this situation. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I agree. Every game that he's played, saw at least 5 targets, and that was his lowest target total of the year against Atlanta. He saw 8, 7, and 8 in the other games, 8 targets immediately coming back off the injury. So I like Gronk here as well.
Yeah, just a better offense. I know it's a harder matchup, but I just like the better offense.
Nick
here.
Indy has been pretty bad against tight ends year-long wise. They're averaging almost 17 points a game to tight ends, 29th in the league. So tight end matchup is pretty easy for Gronk.
Fair. So Gronk it is. And you're welcome, Ruxy. Nick here has Ty Johnson, DJ Dallas, or Rex Burkhead full PPR.
Gross.
I'm riding with Ty Johnson. I think Ty's involved a lot in this game. I think this game could see a decent amount of points scored. I'm not going to say that they're going to score a ton, but I think it's a fairly well-scored game. And I think Ty Johnson will get the checkdowns from Zach Wilson. So I'm going to take Ty Johnson. I just still feel like Alex Collins is kind of the guy there in Seattle. DJ Dallas might see some more touches, but it still seems like they really want Alex Collins to be that guy. And Rex Burkhead's the like dark horse of this group, I guess. He could see a lot, especially with Lindsey gone. It's kind of David Johnson and Burkhead now. So if you want to feel real risky, Rex Burkhead could have a good game. But I feel like Ty Johnson just seems a little bit safer with just as much upside as Rex Burkhead. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm going Ty Johnson here as well. Alex Collins is questionable for the Monday night game. He's got an ab injury, made him limited in practice the last 3 days, including yesterday. So he very well could be the only bona fide running back healthy for Seattle. But for me, it's Ty Johnson. He's just been too involved as of late. Rex Burkhead has been getting a ton of work, but he's been basically almost a 50-50 split with David Johnson, and being full PPR, David Johnson's been the guy that has been the most involved in the receiving work. So I'm going to take the guy who I think has the most reception capability, and that's Ty Johnson.
I like it. I agree. Nick also has sit one, Freiermuth, Higgins, or Waddle full PPR. For me, I am going to sit T. Higgins against the tough Pittsburgh secondary. It's probably a little bit risky, but I think Pat Freiermuth finds the end zone against Cincinnati today. And I think Jalen Waddle's kind of the guy in that offense outside of Mike Gesicki for Miami. So I'm going to take the higher upside in Jalen Waddle. I think Jalen Waddle has a higher upside than T. Higgins, and Freiermuth as well has a higher upside than T. Higgins. T. Higgins has seen targets to an extent, but he just hasn't really produced with it. You know what I mean? That offense just seems to be Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon as of late. So I'm going to go that route. Seems a little risky, but I think I'd sit T. Higgins.
I don't think I ever would have thought I'd heard you say to bench T. Higgins. Like I never thought I'd hear that come out of your mouth.
Weird things have happened.
But yeah, I'm with you here. I'm personally going to bench T. Higgins as well in a couple leagues that I have. Freiermuth's upside the last few weeks now, especially with Ebron out for the year, is just insane. He's been debatably Ben's second favorite target outside of Dante Johnson, and Jalen Waddle has seen at least 6 targets in, I think it was like 7 straight games now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight games. He's seen at least 7 or 6 targets. Hard to bench that type of workload, so I'm gonna bench T. Higgins here as well.
I like it. I like when we agree. Makes it a little easier.
It does.
Easier for them, you know. Like the conversation's more fun when we disagree, but it's easier to answer their question when we agree. So, Nick also has pick 2: Elijah Mitchell, Javonte Williams, Jacoby Myers, and Devonta Smith. Full PPR. I'm going to take Devonta Smith and Elijah Mitchell here. Elijah Mitchell is expected to play. I expect him to kind of be majority of touches. I don't think there's a big discrepancy between him and Jeff Wilson, like maybe 60-40. But I do expect him to see majority of the touches. He's just been their guy. He's been explosive. He looks good in that offense. And we alluded to a little bit earlier on the show, Devonta Smith's just been too good to bench as of late, even in tough matchups. So I'm all in on Devonta Smith. I don't love Jacoby Myers. He just hasn't done a whole lot as of late. He's seen a decent amount of targets, and he seems like a safe floor. But he hasn't. I don't think he's produced over 50 yards in X amount of weeks. The last couple, so I'm a little bit on Jacoby Myers this week. And Javonte Williams, I think, gives you a safe floor, but he doesn't have the upside that Elijah Mitchell and Devonta Smith have. Ryan, you can debunk everything I said if you'd like.
For me, this is tough because I relate Javonte against the Chargers.
I'm just going to say this, and I'm a big Javonte fan. We've said that like the last 10 weeks now. I'm just saying.
I know, and it's not like he's been.
He's not bad. I'm not saying he's not bad, but he's definitely benchable. He's only scoring like 10 points.
I'll say this: when he gets the work, he's been effective. There's just been games where he is seeing like 4 carries, 9 carries. Last week he saw 8 carries, but still averaged 6 yards a carry. If they
That's what I'm saying. I mean, he's good, but the problem is we're expecting him to get more, and they're just not necessarily giving it to him. Do you know what I'm saying?
My only issue here is that Elijah Mitchell is dealing with a rib injury, and we know that if
Ribs.
who needs them, if he takes a bad shot or anything like that, it could knock him out of the game, and that's my only concern here is that Javonte is completely healthy. It's a good matchup against the Chargers. If Elijah Mitchell is active, though, I feel like you kind of have to play him just with the way that he gets used, with how effective he's been. He has been pretty steady, even when he's not getting as much of volume. He's still being effective and still producing fantasy points. So for me, I'm still starting Elijah Mitchell as long as he's active against Minnesota, who's 22nd in points allowed to running back so far this year. And then, like we said earlier, Devonta Smith, him and Dallas Goedert are basically the only 2 guys that Jalen Hurts throws to. So I'm not benching a guy like Devonta Smith unless I have just absolutely stud options. With this group, I'm not benching him. So I'm going Elijah Mitchell if he's active and Devonta Smith. So
I have convinced you. Jim R. Need help with Kelsey on the bye. I have to play Austin Hooper. Someone just dropped Ty Conklin. Would you pick up Conklin and play him over Austin Hooper? Ryan?
I personally would not, just because of how stingy the Niners have been to tight ends all year. I feel like Ty Conklin just has too many weapons to compete with Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook. Even KJ Osborne has been involved. So for me, I'm not willing to do that, but just with the matchup, it's a bad matchup. So for me, yeah, I'm going to keep Austin Hooper in my lineup, even though I'm not a huge fan of him. That's just too risky for me to do that.
Yeah, I think I agree. I like Austin Hooper. He's seen 5 targets, 7 targets in the last 2 games. He's caught 4 balls in both. 1 week he had a touchdown. The other he had 50 yards. He's given you 10 and 13 points. Baltimore is not the worst, but they're not the best against tight ends. So
no, they're bad. They're 30th.
Oh, are they?
I was just looking. Yeah, I was just looking.
Still up there. I thought they got better the last couple of weeks. I haven't checked. 2. Oh, yeah. No, they're 30th. So yeah, I just like the matchup a little bit better. In a game that I think could see a lot of points scored. We've seen the Browns and the Ravens go at it back and forth on prime time a couple times. So I could expect that again this week. And I think Austin Hooper might find the end zone. They're really running out of options there. Is Peoples-Jones back this week? I haven't checked.
He is questionable from what I...
Yeah. I mean, I just like Austin Hooper with the lack of options there. I know they have like 35 tight ends and they roll each of them out there evenly. But I just like Hooper. He's had a good involvement as of late, so I'm going to take him. Like you said, Ryan, Ty Conklin against the 49ers isn't great. We alluded to it with Dan Arnold last week, who pretty much got shut out by the 49ers. So I consider Arnold and Conklin kind of on the same level, so I wouldn't be surprised if Ty Conklin gets blanked this week.
The other thing to consider there is Baker Mayfield's injury issues right now. He's having a lot of trouble throwing the ball down the field deep. Hooper's been kind of like the middle of the field, intermediate throws that Baker feels comfortable taking right now. So in a tougher matchup against Baltimore's overall secondary, Hooper could be a guy that he looks to a lot today.
Yeah. I just feel like they're kind of similar, and I'm just going to roll with the guy I have on my roster that just has a better matchup. So,
yeah.
Mike has picked 2 PPR: Miles Sanders, Melvin Gordon, Aaron Jones, Myles Gaskin. I'm going to take Miles Sanders. Actually, I lied. I'm going to take Aaron Jones and Melvin Gordon.
Right.
aside from, well, the struggle is, what time is the Green Bay game again? Because Aaron Jones might not play.
There's a very good chance that Aaron Jones doesn't play. He wants to play, but they're saying he's a game time decision. They have the bye next week. I would not be surprised if he does not play.
In theory, if I was coaching them, I said it on Twitter earlier this week. Like, I would sit Aaron Jones. Like, if you're Green Bay and you seriously want to make the Super Bowl, Aaron Jones is going to be the key to that. So, like, I would sit him, let him get healthy. AJ Dillon hasn't been terrible in his absence. You're going to go up against a team that's going to make you pass the ball a lot, and just use Devante Smith and your other weapons. Just kind of seems like I would sit him. I'm just not worried. So I'm probably going to start Sanders and Melvin Gordon. The only reason is because I'm worried that Aaron Jones doesn't play. Do you know what I mean? Like, all these guys are 1:00 games outside of Aaron Jones. So for me, I'm going to take Sanders. He has a pretty easy matchup in the Giants, and Melvin Gordon in the revenge game against another fairly easy matchup. I'll just take that. And I mean, I just would hate to start Aaron Jones and then he doesn't play. You're out. You know what I mean? Miami's already played, Philly's already played, and Denver's already played. So I'm going to take Gordon and Sanders, I think. Well, I guess in theory you could pivot to – yeah, that's where I'm going to be at. Gordon's 405, so technically you'll probably know if Aaron Jones is playing by then. So if you wanted to, then I wouldn't fault you to switch to Aaron Jones. But I just feel like a knee injury, like, I don't know. I want Sanders and Gordon.
No love for Myles Gaskin?
Nah, not with Philip Lindsay. They've been trying to replace Myles Gaskin for like 3 years now. I mean, I know he keeps beating people out, but wait, it's an even week, isn't it? Or is he odds?
He's an odds week guy that goes off.
Yeah, even week. He's out.
Yeah, and I was just looking at his stats, and if you look at what he's done against bad defenses, against the Jets, he got you 18. Houston got you 14.7. Atlanta got you 17.7. And then Baltimore 5.5, Buffalo 8.5. And even Jacksonville, who's better against the run than people think, is 2.4. So I'm not starting Myles Gaskin against a tough defense in Carolina. They are fourth against the run, if I believe. Third against the run, or two running backs anyways, 18.6 points per game. So I'm not starting him either. I was just curious if you, with the workload he got last week, if you were maybe a little bit more optimistic about him. Then maybe I am.
And they added Phil Lindsay.
So for me, this one was pretty easy in Miles Sanders and Melvin Gordon, just because I don't expect Aaron Jones to play. I would be shocked if he did. Like, if he has any sort of discomfort or anything like that, they shouldn't be playing him regardless. Just let A.J. Dillon play the Rams. They probably lean a lot more on the pass anyways. So for me, it's Miles Sanders and Melvin Gordon. Even if Jones plays, I don't expect him to get a full workload that he would normally get. So for me, I'm going to take the two guys in the better matchups that probably have just as much upside this week as opposed to Aaron Jones.
I like it. Like I said, I mean, if you really love Aaron Jones, I mean, you'll probably know by the time the Gordon game starts, you could maybe pivot to him. But I would just play Melvin Gordon. I think him and Jones have fairly similar upside this week. I just think that they're going to use Melvin Gordon a lot against his former team. So, Dirty Money has McLaurin or Thielen.
Ooh. See, this one is tough because I feel like I've wanted to bench Thielen a couple weeks in a row now, and I feel like he's burned me twice. Just because he seems to have a knack for the end zone. But for me, I'm taking McLaurin here. If I like Heineke this week, I have to like McLaurin as well because he's going to be his number one target. In a game that should be higher scoring on Monday Night Football against Seattle, I'm going to take the stud wide receiver McLaurin here.
Yeah, I'm going to take Terry McLaurin. I think both are good options, Dirty Money. I'm going to take McLaurin based on that I didn't think he was going to have a good game last week and did against a tough Carolina defense. He gets an easier defense in Seattle, easier cornerback matchups. And I think they both have good games. And honestly, depending on which one you start, I think you are going to be safe. But I think Terry McLaurin has the higher upside here. And Mike, you are welcome. Ruxy has a trade question quick. Is Josh Allen and Thielen, and then he has to give up Tyreek and Mahomes. Do I accept or decline? I would decline as much as I love Josh Allen. It's not even close.
No way.
I know that both Allen and Mahomes have been up and down, but Tyreek Hill's just too good to give up. Adam Thielen, that drop off is a lot. Like we just alluded, Thielen's been pretty solid. He's a wide receiver 1 still, but Tyreek Hill's upside's way higher. And honestly, Patrick Mahomes' upside's way higher than Josh Allen's at times. So I'd keep Mahomes and Hill personally. And that's coming from a Bills fan. So
yeah, I'm not doing that.
Landon has Ayuk or Nick Westbrook. PPR also, would you start Fant or Logan Thomas? Ryan?
I honestly don't like any Titans player today against New England. I feel like that defense is just playing ridiculously well right now, forcing a lot of turnovers. I know Westbrook has been pretty solid in the chances that he's been given, but I'm going to go with Ayuk here in the better matchup. And Fant or Logan Thomas, I think I'm going to lean Fant here. How you attack that Chargers defense is by running the ball or throwing to your tight ends. And the Chargers defense is also going to be missing Asante Samuel Jr. today. So that is a relatively big loss for them, as he's been pretty effective all year. So I know they wouldn't really affect Fant, but that's going to move other pieces to their wide receivers and kind of open up the middle of the field for Fant a little bit more. So for me, I'm going to go Noah Fant, especially with Logan Thomas coming off the injury. I know it's a solid matchup against Seattle, but if you have another same tier guy like Fant, I would start Fant knowing that he's healthy.
Yeah, I'm going to go the opposite direction at the tight end position. I'm going to take Logan Thomas. I think he's a clear second receiving option outside of Terry McLaurin in a game that I think is going to be pretty high scoring. So I'm going to take that. Noah Fant, there's a lot of options to deal with there against the Chargers. I know that kind of the tight end position's there, one of their weaker points, but I just still don't love it. I'm going to trust that Logan Thomas gets what he has been in the past. And he's been off for a long time. I think he's healthy because he could have played last week, I believe. I think he was medically cleared and they sat him out. So they are making sure, took the time to make sure that Logan Thomas was ready. And then I'm going to take Brandon Ayuk with you as well. I don't like any Titans, especially because one of these guys is going to get J.C. Jackson. If not, he's going to rotate through them. And anytime that they're covered by J.C. Jackson, I'm not into that. He's very underrated. He's been a very good corner for the Patriots. So I'm going to take Brandon Ayuk. He just has way more upside to me in this matchups. Sleek has need 2 full PPR. Elijah Mitchell, Brandon Ayuk, Devontae Freeman, or Chase Claypool. Ryan?
Like I said before, if Elijah Mitchell is active, I feel like I'm starting him. I just feel upside is he's given that offense. And then it's down to Ayuk and Freeman for me. I'm just looking at what's been going on. I think I'm going to roll with Elijah Mitchell here. I do like this week against Cleveland, but Ayuk gets a really solid matchup against Minnesota this week. Rashad Breeland is likely to, or he's questionable. I'm not sure if he's been ruled one way or the other. But if he doesn't play, then that opens the field up even more. Xavier Rhodes would probably be shadowing Deebo Samuel. And Breeland's been consistent all year. So even if he does play, Ayuk could be involved enough to take advantage of that. So for me, I'm going to go with Elijah Mitchell and Brandon Ayuk, even though I don't really like to start two main guys like that, or two risky guys like that, knowing that Elijah Mitchell might be limited or be knocked out like Ayuk inconsistently involved. But I like the upside of Ayuk and Elijah Mitchell if he's active.
No love for Devonta Freeman?
No, I like Freeman. It came down to Freeman and Ayuk for me. The way I expect that Niners Minnesota game to go, I feel like it could be a little bit higher scoring than Baltimore and Cleveland, given how Cleveland's offenses looked. So that's the only reason why I'm leaning. I like Freeman this week, to be honest with you. I feel like Ayuk has a better matchup and a higher scoring game.
So why not Freeman over Mitchell?
He's just too involved in the way they run that offense. He's just too involved. With Lamar being back, he takes some of that upside away from Freeman, and Latavius Murray is still involved, is still going to be involved. So I just like Elijah Mitchell more.
I'm a little torn. I think I'm going to go Ayuk and Freeman here. I like Ayuk, like you said. He started to get back into what he was last year in this offense. So I'm going to take Brandon Ayuk here as well. However, I might lean Devonta Freeman here. The last couple weeks, he's seen 58% of the snap share. He's kind of become like the lead, quote unquote, guy there. Murray was active last week, and he still saw 16 carries. Scored a touchdown. He also saw 6 receptions. So I'm not going to. I just feel like the upside is just as equal from Devonta Freeman as it is Elijah Mitchell. So just because Jeff Wilson's still there too in San Francisco. So I'm going to take Devonta Freeman. He seems like he might be a safer play. He's definitely healthy. And see, I predict the Browns-Ravens game to be high scoring over the Niners-Vikings game. So we're kind of like in a reverse role and thought process there. So
Really,
I personally like Devonta Freeman.
Those interdivisional games are always a crapshoot on what you're going to get. You can either get slugfest where it's 17-14 and not a whole lot of offenses being played, or you can get higher scoring 35 to 28 types games where both teams just are trading touchdown for touchdown. So I can see it. I do like Freeman this week. I just feel like the matchup with Minnesota, I feel like that Minnesota game is going to be a little bit higher scoring. And like I said, with Lamar back, I feel like it kind of caps Devonta Freeman's upside. We had Tyler Huntley throwing him the ball as opposed to Lamar. And not that Freeman wasn't really involved before with Lamar active. He wasn't seeing 6 targets. He saw 4 at the most before the injury to Lamar. So, and I do expect Latavius Murray to get a little bit more involved now that he's fully healthy and wasn't his first game back from injury.
I mean, fair. I mean, just Elijah Mitchell has been involved, but like he also doesn't have necessarily point totals, you know. I mean, they both have the similar point totals if you look over the last 3 weeks. PPR scoring wise. Just saying. So, coin flip Elijah Mitchell and Devonta Freeman, but definitely fire up Brandon Ayuk's league. Jeff Wilson or Rondae Stevens in PPR from Jim. Ryan?
I think For me, this one is tough because I like Jeff Wilson's role in the offense.
You can't like Mitchell and Wilson, Ryan.
I said I like the role in the offense.
You can't. You got to pick one.
Why can't I? Why can't I like both?
I'm not allowing it.
Why not?
I don't know. I'm just not allowing it.
I'm not comparing the two, but do you like Kareem Hunt and do you like Nick Chubb?
Personally, Kareem Hunt is a thorn in my side because I just want Nick Chubb to beat Nick Chubb.
Exactly, but why isn't Nick Chubb when Hunt's in the lineup?
We all know the
because
answer.
He's involved. That's why. Anyways, I'm going to go with Rondae Stevens in here. I feel like New England is going to want to run the ball as long as he's active. Given what he's been the last few weeks now that he's finally gotten out of whatever kind of doghouse he was in with Bill Belichick to start the year. He's seen double-digit carries the last 3 games, been slightly involved in terms of receiving work, saw 8 targets the last 3 games combined, which for a guy like him is solid. He just had 2 weeks ago, he just had 100 yards for 2 touchdowns. Damien Harris is absent for that game, but going against Tennessee, who has been better as of late against running backs, they're actually 4th overall in terms of PPR points to running backs to start the year. But that I just feel like that offense is going to be on the field a ton with Tennessee's struggles, and what I think they'll struggle with the ball. So for me, I'm going to go with Rondae Stevenson here in a game where he should see a dozen or so carries, and that should be enough to get him over Jeff Wilson.
Yeah, I agree. I like Rondae Stevenson. Unless Elijah Mitchell's not active, he's expected to be. If Elijah Mitchell's inactive, pivot to Jeff Wilson. What time's their game? Actually, is that even possible?
The San Francisco game.
4:00 game. Probably won't know. Probably won't know. So I'll probably roll Rondae Stevenson. Yeah, just because he's probably gonna be more involved in the offense. So I will take Rondae Stevenson as well. And what like you said, Ryan, I kind of predict a kind of ground and pound type game. So I agree. Pick 3, standard scoring, non-PPR, Brown, Keenan Allen, Dante Johnson, Ayuk, and Smith. So this is Brooks getting back to us. So it is non-PPR, Ryan.
So non-PPR, I'm going to go with Devonta Smith, Keenan Allen, and Dante Johnson here. I think I was torn between him and Marquis Brown, to be honest with you. No, I'm gonna go with Marquis Brown. I'm changing it. Marquis Brown, Keenan Allen, Devonta Smith for me. Dante Johnson sees a ton of targets, but with it being non-PPR, you're kind of looking for him to score a touchdown. And if I remember correctly off the top of my head, that hasn't been. He scored a touchdown last week, but before that, he had went 4 straight games without scoring a touchdown. Only has 4 on the year. I'm gonna lean Marquise Brown here. I just like the upside that he possesses from week to week. And in a tougher than people think matchup against Cincinnati for Deontay, I like Marquise Brown's upside here.
I agree with you. Marquise Brown, Keenan Allen, Devonta Smith are my 3. The non-PPR is the key. If you're worried about Marquise Brown's injury, pivot to Dante Johnson. I don't hate Dante Johnson this week. I think he, like you said, Ryan, it's a little bit tougher matchup, but it's not terrible. So I don't hate him. I just feel like Marquise Brown has a better chance of scoring a touchdown. However, if you're worried, Marquise Brown either will get re-injured or re-aggravated during the game and might miss some time. That's fair to me. So I would also not hate starting DJ over Marquise Brown if that's something that worries you. So But for me, in a vacuum with no injury concerns, it's Marquis Brown, Keenan Allen, and Devonte Smith for me.
Well, our injury / Ravens fan is here.
No, he's not. Keep him hidden. Because then he's going to come in and he's going to, like, give us some super secret information. And then he's going to make me change my mind. And I already made up my mind. So,
yeah, man. Last week, man, Bateman let me down. I apologize to the people.
Yeah, he did. What the heck?
I don't know, man. It wasn't a good game. The game plan was all right, but I guess I underestimated, first start on the road with Tyler Huntley. I boosted him up. But, hey, we got the win, though. That's all that matters. We won. So
it's true.
Yeah, that's all that matters. Y'all had a
Brown
convincing win on Thanksgiving. I know that was easy to eat y'all Thanksgiving dinner and your leftover. I mean, your second, third plate. And watch that.
Oh no, it wasn't easy. I was still yelling at my TV because Josh Allen made a silly throw and got picked off again, get his arm hit.
But Dawson Knox, man, he helped my fantasy out big.
Oh, yeah.
I almost didn't play him. I was like, I don't know, but I was like, let me just see what he does. So it helped out.
Dawson is officially unbenchable for me at this point.
Angry man.
Right.
Anyways, Marquis Brown. Should Brooks be concerned about Marquis Brown?
No, I think he's going to be okay. I mean, with hamstring injuries, they're always a tricky. He was full week of individual drills. Again, most of the reports suggest he'll play. So it's probably like a grade 1, grade 2 hamstring strain. Now, again, with the hamstrings, there is a risk of aggravation. He probably will see a few likely snaps just because Sammy Watkins is healthy, and then Rashad Bateman is actually coming along pretty well. So I will say he probably is going to have a limited snap target than usual as they're trying to kind of ease him along because they're about to hit this stretch of that AFC North Conference play. Huge. I think that 5 of their last 7 is conference games. So they're probably going to need him down the stretch. So I will say that's probably the biggest concern is I feel like he might get fewer snaps, fewer targets just because Sammy's healthy. The risk of reactivation and also the rookie Bateman's playing pretty well. So that would probably be my only concern there.
All right. He also has Antonio Gibson or James Robinson standard scoring, Ryan. Pretty easy for me. I'm taking James Robinson. I think he's just more involved in the offense. He'll probably score a touchdown or 2 against Atlanta. Against Atlanta. And I like that a little bit better. Feels a little safer. Gibson is very touchdown dependent, but he just isn't getting there necessarily as of late. So I'm going to take James Robinson. Ryan?
Yeah, I like James Robinson here as well. Atlanta's 29th against the run, allowing 4 yards to carry. Deion Jones, like I said, if he's not active, that's a huge loss for that linebacker group. So he would play a major part in being able to stop James Robinson. So for me, it's Robinson here.
Yeah, clean sweep. Robinson, just because the opportunities, the volume he gets, his involvement in the offense. He's a centerpiece in that offense. So I like Robinson just for the touches and opportunities.
I like it. Ruxy has it. I wanted to put this one. Elijah Mitchell or Devontae Freeman. I love watching you guys every Sunday. And I'm guessing he means Deontay Foreman from the Titans.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if this is all the same question, Ruxy. So I don't know because there's a lot of key pieces here.
Yes.
So if you could let me know. I'm guessing it's all the same. I'm guessing it's either Elijah Mitchell, Foreman, or Stevenson.
Yeah.
Is my guess. So, Austin, I'll let you lead us off. Should agree with Mitchell's ribs.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that a little bit. I made a couple of notes on that. Again, with the ribs, I will say there's, again, a high risk of reaggravation. I'm pretty sure that San Francisco are confident that they can wrap it and protect it. Again, Schefter is saying he'll play. Again, I say he will likely see most of the rushing load, but pass protection receiving usage is probably going to be a little down just because of the finger. So they will wrap and protect the finger, and he'll play. But again, with the pass protection and then also some of the receiving usage, I think that's going to be down. So for that reason, because I'm probably off Elijah Mitchell, and I probably like more of Stevenson against that Titans D. So if I had to pick, I'm going Stevenson. Mitchell, I just think you're not going to get as much from him on passing downs. So he's very touchdown dependent at that point. So I like Freeman. I like Stevenson for the Patriots.
Ryan?
So the more I think about what Elijah Mitchell is doing here, for me, if he's active, that means that they feel very comfortable with giving him the workload that they would normally give him because they have Jeff Wilson and Trey Sermon in the backfield that are,
who?
in my opinion, what?
I heard Jeff Wilson, and I thought you said something else, but there's no way you said a different name.
Trey
right?
Sermon?
Who? I'm just messing with you. Continue.
I hate you. So I feel like if Elijah Mitchell is active, I feel like they feel comfortable giving him the normal workload that he would normally be getting. So for me, if he's active, I'm starting him over these guys. And then if he's not active, I'm leading Stevenson as well. I just don't expect D'Onta Foreman to do a whole lot against that Patriots defense. They're likely to take that run away and tell Ryan Tannehill to beat them through the air with their makeshift wide receiving core and their underrated secondary, in my opinion. So for me, it'd be Elijah Mitchell if he's active, and if not, then I'm leading Stevenson.
Yeah. And like I said, my only hesitation with Mitchell is just because I feel like he won't have some opportunities on pass downs. But running, you're right, he probably will get a good workload. But that, to me, that makes him more touchdown dependent, personally. So,
Yeah, I'm worried with. I think D'Onta Foreman sees the most work of these three. But like you guys had alluded to, playing New England is not going to necessarily be an easy sledding for D'Onta Foreman. So I'm going to take Stevenson as well. I think he's going to see enough of a workload to give you a decent like flex points. But yeah, Elijah Mitchell's kind of an out from, or a little bit of a dice roll play for me. He obviously has the highest upside, I think, of all of these guys. But like Austin had alluded to, depending on injuries, how they're going to use them, what they're going to do, it's definitely dicey. So if you want to play it safer, I'm fine with like starting Stevenson personally. I would over Foreman. To another New England running back, Damien Harris or AJ Dillon, full PPR from Jim. I'll lead us off with, I'm going to say AJ Dillon. I don't think Aaron Jones plays. I don't think they should play him. I think they should let him sit, even though he wants to play and he says to himself that he's healthy enough. I'd rest it, get the 2 weeks with the bye week, and call it a day. I'm not the coach, so it's not necessarily what's going to happen, but I think they should. So I think AJ Dillon still sees the full workload there. I don't mind Damien Harris. I just think that we've seen Rondae Stevens kind of come on. Mac Jones is a capable passer. I prefer what should be a pretty heavy workload for AJ Dillon.
I would 100% agree with your insight with AJ Dillon. He wants to play, but he's gamed that decision. Again, the team is going to be mindful of risk. Packers historically have a very conservative medical staff. It's been seen a lot. They're probably one of the more conservative medical staffs that you see with a lot of these injuries. I've seen that a lot with Devontae Adams last year with his hamstring, very conservative. So I'm almost certain that you will not see Aaron Jones just from historic how they are. And then, like you said, return after the bye. But like you said, I'm going with Dillon as well, just because of the fact I'm probably about 85, 90% sure that Aaron Jones will be inactive today.
Yeah, I'm going with Dillon here as well. I do like Harris because, like I said earlier, I feel like that game is going to be a lot of New England running the ball. But the upside of AJ Dillon by himself in that backfield, even against the Rams, who are tough against the run for the most part, only allowing 3.9 yards per carry. But given how that offense operates with the running backs, he just has the most upside to me, and he's going to be the guy that sees probably 80% of the work at minimum if Aaron Jones doesn't play. So I'm going to go with AJ Dillon there.
And then also we have to understand that, actually Aaron Rodgers has a fractured pinky toe. So that's very influential for
couldn't have couldn't have been telling me that last week. We knew that last week, and I benched him because I was like, all right, he's got that toe, probably gonna be able to play it very well. And then,
but I think a lot of that was because they were down, so I think they feel that they had to throw. But I mean, I still feel like they're going to be a really heavy run team unless, again, the game script flips. Just because I think of the pinky toe, because actually they're saying they might need surgery, so they're delaying that. So, he has a high likelihood of surgery. So, again, at least until playoff time comes, I would suspect the Packers to be a really run dominant team. Obviously, if game script dependent, but so even for that reason, I'm definitely riding high on AJ Dillon as well. So
3 agreeing. AJ Dillon, it is, Jim. John has should I start Chris Godwin, Miles Sanders, or Darrell Henderson at flex this week in a full PPR? Oof. That is that's a tough one.
It is.
And you're welcome, Jim. Man, I feel like it's got to be Chris Godwin. He's just been really good the last couple weeks. I know Miles Sanders has a decent matchup. Darrell Henderson even has a decent matchup, but Chris Godwin's got too much upside. The touchdown upside, the passing offense, the volume that's been there. I'm just going with Chris Godwin. Ryan? I always hate when Ryan says, because then he usually convinces me otherwise.
Right? He's about to go. He's not agreeing with you. You know that.
It's really tough for me to sit Miles Sanders this week, to be honest with you. That Giants defense has just been so bad in terms of what they've given up to running backs. And just to take it out of the question, I'm kind of out on Darrell Henderson as of late, just from what we've seen. He saw a decrease in rush attempts for the last 5 weeks straight. They got behind early in week 10 against San Francisco, and he only saw 5 attempts. And going against Green Bay is not necessarily a matchup that you want to start running backs in because they're 9th in terms of PPR points allowed, 22.2. So for me, it comes down to Chris Godwin and Miles Sanders, and I think I'm going to go with Miles Sanders here, just because I feel like Godwin has a lot of people to contend with in terms of targets. Obviously, Mike Evans is there, and they have the running backs they utilize, and Gronk is back. Scotty Miller is reportedly supposed to be back, who could be a knockoff Antonio Brown to take the top off the defense like we saw last year in the playoffs. So for me, I really like Miles Sanders. I like what they've done the last few weeks in terms of their offense and how he's been utilized since he's been back healthy. So for me, it's Miles Sanders in a really good matchup against the Giants. Even though I'm starting Chris Godwin in a lot of places, I don't have this personal issue where I have to sit him for Miles Sanders. So I still like Godwin this week, but I feel like Miles Sanders just has more opportunities overall and has less to compete with in terms of targets, seeing as how it's only Dallas Goedert and Devonta Smith that Jalen Hurts is really looking to. So for me, it's Miles Sanders, but I do like Chris Godwin.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Ryan on this one. I'm going to go Miles Sanders. Just short, I know. Short week, right? Both teams are coming from short weeks. And the Giants are, and then the Tampa Bay are. So I trust more of Philly really taking advantage of the Giants' D coming off the short week and the loss against Tampa. I feel like their D is not going to bounce back. They fired the offensive coordinator. There's a lot of just things going on in the Giants locker room that allows me to believe that Miles Sanders and Philly are going to have a successful day today. I like Godwin, but like I said, he does compete for a lot of touches with the ball. And Miles Sanders is starting to be a focal point, particularly in the red zone, particularly the way that Jalen Hurts has become a really big threat in the red zone over the last couple of weeks. I think, a lot of that zone read and getting Miles Sanders involved gives him a high ceiling. So I'm going to go with Miles Sanders.
You're starting the guy who got 6.4 points last week.
I know. Upside. And it's the Giants. the Giants.
If I
He had
remember
94 yards.
correctly,
He is just like
he had a touchdown call back last week, if I remember correctly.
But he was heavily
Antonio
involved,
Gibson.
though. Jeremy, he was heavily involved.
He's Antonio
16
Gibson.
16 attempts on 46% snap share. What happens when that creeps up to 16?
That's
16,
what I'm saying. He was heavily involved.
You know, this just seems like
Giants
seems like
defense,
one we're not going to agree on.
the Giants offense is missing Kadarius Toney, Sterling Shepard, Kyle Rudolph, Caden Smith. They're missing a lot of pieces. That game very well could get out of hand for the Giants.
Honestly, I think it might be. It might be a blowout. New offensive coordinator, short week. They have a lot of things against them that I feel like it could be a blowout. So injuries.
Like I said, I like Godwin this week. I'm just saying,
Mhm.
I feel like Miles Sanders,
Mhm.
second game back, seeing what he saw on less than 50% snap share. I'm taking the guy that has a lot less to compete against in terms of touches and targets.
Damn, brother. Brothers. We can't agree on that one. That's
You're welcome.
On that one.
You're welcome, John. But they're not going to convince me. It's still Chris Godwin. Fair. It was a fair effort, and I could see your points, but it's just not gonna. I'd still start Godwin. Anyways, who should I sit? Hollywood Brown, Jalen Waddle, Elijah Moore, or DJ Moore? Full PPR. Austin alluded to earlier that we could possibly see a little bit of a tick down there from Hollywood with that hamstring injury. How do you guys feel here for Breck? Who are you sitting out of this group?
I'm going to say Hollywood just for the injury. Everybody else is healthy. Everyone else is involved, highly involved in their offense. Focal points, Waddle with the screens, short and intermediate routes. Elijah Moore is a great route runner, outlet for their quarterbacks in New York. And then DJ Moore, as we know, he's one of the more popular targets for Cam just because they've had that connection prior to him leaving. So the only reason I'm sitting Hollywood is because of the injury. If it wasn't for that, I probably would start him, but I think just injury reasons. And I think, like I said, I don't know if they're going to have him in his normal target / snap percentages today. So I would say Hollywood.
Brian?
I want to do it, but I can't trust Elijah Moore just yet with Zach Wilson. Like, I have to see what that looks like now that Zach Wilson is back, because before Zach Wilson's injury, Elijah Moore got no more than 8 points in PPR while Zach Wilson was healthy, and that was with a relatively high snap share for the first 2 weeks. He was at 86 and 78%, and then his snap share dropped off. And once Zach Wilson got hurt is when he really came alive after the bye week. So for me, was it the quarterback? Was it Elijah Moore learning the system? Was it him just adjusting to the NFL in general? I don't personally know, but you know what Hollywood's going to get you when he's in the lineup. As long as he stays on the field and he's healthy, I feel like he just has too much upside. And with Zach Wilson coming back this week, I feel like Elijah Moore's upside could be slightly capped. Even though it's a solid matchup against Houston, I just can't take that risk at this point in the year where I'm likely jockeying for playoff position. I'm going to take the upside of Hollywood and sit the unknown that's Elijah Moore with Zach Wilson.
Could we argue that Elijah Moore is safer than Hollywood Brown, though, this week?
Oh, there's a chance he's safer for sure, but
I'm just asking. You know what I mean? Like Hollywood, like a re-aggravation of a hamstring injury. Yeah.
And also, too, the only thing with Hollywood, too, not even with the injury, this is going to be the first time all three of the receivers have been healthy. So we got Sammy, Rashad, the second time. So there is going to be a little bit of drop in opportunities there. So I for that, too, and he's injured, I'm just going to probably sit him for that reason. But I definitely understand what you mean with the connection with Wilson and Moore. That wasn't a sure thing at the beginning of the year. They had some struggles for sure, but I just feel like Ryan just said, or Jeremy just said, I just feel like the safer bets probably sitting Hollywood over Moore. So
yeah, I mean, I'd really coin flip Hollywood Brown and Elijah Moore. I feel like Waddle and Moore or DJ Moore are both must starts in this scenario, and then Hollywood and Elijah Moore is where you're going to coin flip it. If you're really worried about Hollywood's injury, I don't fault you for starting Elijah Moore. However, I'm a little bit lean with Ryan as well. Like, was Elijah Moore just taking some time to adjust to the NFL, kind of learn the system, and that's why? Or was it that Zach Wilson just wasn't ready? And is Zach Wilson now ready, or is he still not ready? Do you know what I mean? So that you could see a drop off from Elijah Moore, but there's things in Elijah Moore's favor. The matchup against Houston, Corey Davis is doubtful. Like he's going to see a good target share. He's not injured. He's a little bit safer, and he's just been on fire as of late. So it's hard for me to sit Elijah Moore, but I am concerned if I start Elijah Moore. And I am concerned if I'm starting Hollywood because of the injury. So, like, either one comes with equal concern to me.
Yes.
So it's whichever, I guess.
And I will say historically, Hollywood has played really good against the Browns. So
yeah,
that is the thing. That's one of the teams he performed really, really well with.
Yeah, and it's Sunday night, and we've seen these games go back and forth and score high scoring, running to the tunnel and coming back. It could, we could have a heroic Lamar Jackson game again. So
this is his first game back. He's healthy. They said he's reconditioned. So it's going to be a great game. So we'll see. Like you said, safer bet. Like you said, just safer bet. I would say Elijah.
Yeah, but I wouldn't fault you for going with Hollywood over Elijah. So I could roll either way there. Dan has, hey guys, what's up, Dan? Stevenson, Chenault, Hunt, or Dillon in his flex, assuming Jones plays full PPR. Go Titans, Dan. We might not even answer your question for saying that. But,
I'm not even gonna.
Dan's a friend of the show, so don't think we're actually evil. So we're not. We'd answer no matter who
He's also a fellow yards per member. So
anytime the Patriots playing anybody, I'm going against the opposite team. So go Titans today.
Fair point. So yeah, Dan, actually, you're correct. I don't know why I was saying that. You're right. Because we need the Patriots to lose. Because apparently the Bills can't win by themselves. So
we just won. What do you mean?
Don't even get me started, Ryan. Okay, now answer his question. I'm starting Kareem Hunt. I know Baltimore's got a pretty good defense, but Kareem Hunt and that rushing offense, even with Chubb, I mean, both of them have been pretty solid starts no matter what. So both have huge upside. If it does turn into a passing game, it's going to be Kareem Hunt over Chubb. So I'm going to take that. And that's assuming Aaron Jones plays, since you put that in there. So anyone else?
I'm going to go Hunt too. And I hate it, but I feel like it's a really bad matchup for the Ravens. Don't have a really good coverage linebackers for like out of the backfield, man coverage particularly. But like they're going to put us in a lot of option isolated routes with Hunt. I also like him a lot in the red zone as a passing threat. And our defense, as far as yardage, is just really not good. It's below average, at least below 50% defense in the league. The only thing that we're really good at is red zone and then also third down. So, but I feel like Hunt is a great third down back. And then also I think he's a great red zone back. So for those two reasons, I think they'll give us trouble. So I'm going to go Hunt as well.
I'm going to go with Hunt as well here, just because when he was healthy, he was seeing double-digit opportunities in every single one of his games except for week 1. That was at Kansas City, which was just a weird game for them in general, but he even scored a touchdown in that game. Has 5 touchdowns in the first 6 weeks that he was healthy. He's still the running back 28 for PPR. So I'm rolling with Kareem Hunt. If he's healthy and active, I feel like he has to be in your lineup. So for me, I'm going with him.
And y'all got to remember how that game was last year. I mean, they ran all on us. I mean, I think Kareem had like 2 touchdowns. Hunt had 2. I think Baker ran 1 in. So it's a crazy game. So they're definitely going to run. And then I think they got Coughlin back too. So they're getting healthy up front. So look for them to get back to kind of what they like to do. So.
Kareem Hunt across the boards. James has, what's up, boys? Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Happy Thanksgiving. Got a lineup call I'm struggling with. Pick 3, half PPR. First, I thought it was pick 3 and half of them. Get it? Javonte, Mike Williams, Brandon Cooks, Jerry Judy, Chase Claypool. Ryan?
For me, I'm going to go with Brandon Cooks. I'm going to go with Mike Williams and Jerry Judy here. That Chargers-Broncos matchup should be relatively high scoring. Like I said earlier, Asante Samuel is is out with a concussion, which is good news for Broncos receivers, as he's been pretty impressive at times throughout this year, which, like I said, shifts their cornerback matchups a little bit. And Jerry Judy should benefit a lot from playing in the slot for Denver. Brandon Cooks, I'm just not really benching him with his volume that he receives. And in that same matchup with Denver's likely to be without Kareem Jackson, who's doubtful. So that's their starting safety opposite of I can't remember his name now, but he's their starting opposite safety, and that could open up big plays for Mike Williams. So I like the upside of him here in this matchup. So for me, it's those 3 receivers, even though I do like Javonte against a weak Chargers rushing defense.
Austin?
I like the first 3. Javonte, Mike, and Cooks. Cooks, like you said, he's wide receiver 1, has a lot of opportunities. I just think he is one of the more focal points of their passing offense. Mike Will, I love him as a big play threat. He might not get the volume as Keenan Allen, but I love the explosive plays and the kind of just the big play threat that he presents. And then I'm going to go with Javonte just because, like you said, the Chargers do have a pretty weak front or as it comes from the running game. So I feel like and we know Denver is going to want to pound the rock. So I think – and I love his elusiveness. I think he has like a high missed tackle rate, one of the highest rates in the league that I read from Pro Football Focus, so PPF. So so Javonte, Mike Will, and B. Cooks. So those are my 3.
Interesting. So I'm going to take Brandon Cooks as 1 for sure. I like Brandon Cooks. I've always loved Brandon Cooks. He had a down week last week against Tennessee, which was really surprising, honestly. I guess one of the more terrible pass off or defenses in the league. But I think Cooks should see back up to his normal, like 6, 8, 10 targets here in this game against the Jets. And then I like Jerry Judy. It's arguably a tough matchup on paper against the Chargers. However, the Chargers have gotten burned by some guys like Devante Smith as of late. They've gotten burned by just those good guys that can create separation. There's another list, and I forgot them, but they've all gone over 100 yards and receivers against the Chargers, working kind of out of the slot, or just really good route runners and separation creators. Jerry Judy is at the top of that. So Jerry Judy to me actually is a smash start for me this week. I like Jerry Judy. I think he tops 100, gets in the end zone. Mike Will's a guy I'm like off on as of late. He's kind of just seen 6 targets every single week and kind of become touchdown dependent again. So until he sees that uptick in target volume, he has the big play. He just doesn't seem as safe as, like, say, a Jerry Judy or Brandon Cooks. And then I'll roll Javonte just to get a safe guy in there. Javonte is just a safe floor. He's going to get you 9-10 points. And then the other 2 will give you that upside, as equal upside with a little bit safer floors, I think, in Cooks and Judy that Mike Will gives you. So that's kind of where I'm at.
No problems with the Broncos being a run-heavy team, and then Judy competing with Sutton and Patrick, guys that they just recently extended, so they're going to want to keep them heavily involved in a game plan.
No, I think Jerry Judy's their guy. I think that Cortland Sutton's going to become like a outside piece. He's good at what he does. Tim Patrick's good at what he does. I think they want both those guys outside handling a lot of that. And Jerry Judy's just going to be free to use his separation abilities, his route running in the middle of the field. I mean, he's seen 8-9 targets the last 2 weeks. So he even saw it in the first game before his injury. I mean, he had 7 targets in like half the game. So I think Jerry Judy is the guy they want to get going. And I think they like him over Sutton and Patrick. I think they just signed Patrick because the 3 of them together is a good wide receiver core. That's just kind of how I feel about it. But I just feel like Judy's going to be the guy in this game. He's just a better route runner than Sutton and Patrick, and I think he'll be able to create that separation. And the better corners are going to slide out to those guys, I think, like Ryan had said with Samuel being out.
Fair enough.
Appreciate the subscribe. Thanks, James. We'll see you hopefully next week.
Appreciate it, James.
Unless we lose his matchup for him, then maybe he'll be like, you guys. Right. Oh. JK, just joking. God, lightening it up. Everybody laugh. Jim, all right. PPR, pick 3. Odell Beckham, Rashad Bateman, Jerry Judy, or Elijah Moore. We all know how I feel about Jerry Judy. I just proclaim my love. So he's one for me. I'll take Beckham and Elijah Moore. I'll chase the 3 upside guys here. I think Beckham could have a big game. I know there's some reports that came out this morning that Matt Stafford's really banged up. So, and I think that was the actual verbiage from it. So,
still expect him to play. I just think.
Yeah, he's going to play, but apparently he's playing through a lot of injuries by the sounds of it. But I still like Beckham. I like Jerry Judy for all the reasons I just alluded to. And Elijah Moore, I'm going to risk it just in this scenario. I like Elijah Moore over Bateman just because I think he's proven more as he can create a 20-point game. Bateman hasn't really gotten there yet. So long term, I like Bateman over Moore, but Elijah Moore, I think I like this week. Whoever would like to go next.
Go ahead, Austin.
Yes, sir. I would definitely go Beckham. I think he's going to have a good game, like you said. I think he's finally learning the system. And even then, I think now that he understands the verbiage, certain go to calls, they can get a 2-minute with him. It's a lot of things. I think now that he's been there, that I think he's going to be a little bit more involved and more active into the game planning. So I like Beckham. I like Bateman just because of the fact that he's been a solid chain mover. And we know the touchdown's coming. We know it's coming. But I'll definitely like him in today's matchups against Cleveland, particularly with Lamar coming back. And then, like you said, the toss-up between Judy and Moore, you definitely make good points for both, particularly Judy last question. But like you said, I'm going to go with Moore just because he's a little bit more safer than Judy, in my opinion. Like I said, I love him as an intermediate route runner, and that's kind of where Zach Wilson needs to start kind of utilizing the field. You know, he has that cannon in my arms. I feel like he takes a lot more risk than he probably should take. So I'm hoping on this last half of the year they really understand to take those intermediate 5 to 10 to 15 routes. And I feel like that's where Elijah Moore eats. So hopefully, you know, with the time off, him able to get the system down, maybe getting with the coaching staff to understand that you can utilize that part of the field rather than trying to use your arm and your God-given physical gifts to kind of push the ball down the field. So I'm going to say Moore. I feel like Moore and Wilson might have a connection. If it's going to happen, maybe today, I feel like. And then Bateman and Beckham. So those are my 3.
That's you, Ryan.
I'm really torn here because my argument against Elijah Moore is that I want to see him do what he's done recently with Zach Wilson, but then we haven't seen Odell Beckham do anything with Matt Stafford either. But they're coming off a bye. Like I said earlier, I have read and heard that they were really pushing to get him implemented during the bye week. And with Kevin King being out for Green Bay, their secondary is pretty banged up. So I got to kind of choose between one of the guys that we haven't really seen it from with their current quarterback. And I'm going to take the game that I think is going to be higher scoring, and that's going to be Odell. So for me, I'm going to bench Elijah Moore this week. And if he goes off this week, I will be fully in the camp that he's officially arrived. And the blip in the radar was that he was just kind of adjusting to everything, and he probably won't be on too many benches after that. But I'm going to take the higher scoring game, what I think will be the higher scoring game in the Rams. So I'll take Odell and bench Elijah Moore here.
Yeah. I agree, and you're right. But I trust 2 veterans figuring that out over than 2 rookies. So in your point where you're saying that neither of them had like a good connection with the wide receiver quarterback connection. So I think Beckham and Stafford figure it out today, or at least over the next couple games. So
yeah, you figure they had a bye week too to kind of get adjusted. So
yeah.
I'm ready. I'd like to see. I'd like to see Odell Beckham kind of rejuvenate there in Los Angeles. So Ryan has pick 2 standard league: Pittman, Bateman, or Valdez-Scantling.
I'm not benching Pittman here, to be honest with you. Tampa should be able to score relatively, not even relatively easily, but they should be a higher scoring game with Indianapolis. I think they have like the second or third highest over/under for the week. And Pittman's been the guy that Carson Wentz has really looked to, especially if Jonathan Taylor can get going against the Tampa Bay front. I feel like he's got the most upside to score. I do like Valdez-Scantling with Jalen Ramsey being on Devontae Adams this week. But with how Pittman has been in recent weeks, I have a really hard time benching him for anybody that's not a high-end wide receiver so far this year.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. I like Valdez-Scantling, but I think he's a really high-risk play. High potential, high ceiling, but I just feel like that's a very high-risk play. Bateman is averaging 27% target share right now with Lamar. So Lamar coming back, I still expect him to get a heavy dose, particularly as they start working him more into the slot. And even last week with Huntley, I mean, they're just very integrating him in the offense. I mean, he had 2 critical defensive pass interference calls. Even the first one that set up the game-winning drive, the first play, he got a 27-yard DPI. So I feel like they're just really starting to like put him more in the game plan. And I know we've been talking about him for the last couple of weeks, but I think it's coming. So we'll see. But at 27% target share, I like that for Bateman. Pittman, like you said, he's a good, nice focal point of that offense, particularly in the passing game, from screens, from the intermittent routes, and the red zone target. So I'm going to go with Pittman and Bateman.
I'm going to make it a clean sweep, and I'm going to agree with you, all of you. I like your points. I like Pittman. He feels like somewhat of a must start nowadays. He had a down week against the Bills last week, but Jonathan Taylor did his thing, so we know why that was. But Rashad Bateman too. I like him over Valdez-Scantling. So, Ryan, you are welcome. All right, guys. So that sums up our questions for now. Now becomes the fun. Random questions. Unless you guys have something.
I love it.
Let's see what else I had us on my injuries.
Yeah, actually, Austin, why don't you run through some of your injuries? Because I feel like the last couple shows we've had a lot of questions. We haven't gotten to too much of that. And there's one big one, actually. I have a question. Okay. Cordell Patterson.
Yeah, actually, he was on my list. So I will hit
Is he playing, Austin? And if he is, should I start him? Because there's about at least like 20 of my leagues that matter.
Yeah. So I'll go down my list and I hit him in a second. I had a couple key. I had a couple questions on Twitter. Do you think Kamara comes back next week? So I wanted to talk about that. A couple of people asked me that on Twitter. So predicting the recovery for MCL sprains is very difficult, particularly for a position like running back and the way Alvin Kamara really relies on his elusiveness. I think we'll know more about Kamara after Monday and Tuesday workouts. If he's limited or better on those days, then he has a good chance to return. So the big thing, let's see how he looks on Monday and Tuesday. I think then that'll let us know where he's at for next week. So that's a really good thing. Practice report progression for Alvin Kamara is really big early next week. So for a lot of people who have him, and depending on him on their fantasy. Let's see how he does early next week, and then I can fill you in more about that. Lamar Jackson, I feel like he should be ready, full playbook and usage today. It was some type of fever, stomach illness, but he rebounded pretty well. He was not limited at all this week on the practice report. Logan Thomas, expected to return to active roster on Monday. So had some soreness 2 weeks ago. No indications of limitations of practice this week. So the possibility of snap count, but depth chart limited. So again, I would say maybe 5 to 10 targets are possible. We know Heineke loves the tight ends, so maybe is a good red zone play, a high ceiling play today in the red zone. But Logan Thomas, look for him to have some limited snap count, but hopefully they get some usage out of him in the red zone. We talked about Kareem Hunt, we talked about Elijah Mitchell, and then the big one, like y'all just asked about, was Cordell Patterson. So the 2 weeks of limited practice suggest that it was more of a high ankle sprain, but on a low grade end. So he's trending toward playing. There are reports that he's feeling much better. I would say 10 plus touches is a reasonable expectation. Again, the risk of in-game aggravation remains high because of the tissue and the connective tissue that's insulted, and also with the position he plays. I would start him because he's been shown to be a very focal point of that offense, and that's from a pass protection, that's from running, and also the passing game. So I would start him. Just know you're taking a risk with the in-game aggravation. But like I said, it was on the low grade of a high ankle sprain. And, 2 weeks of limited practice suggests me that he should be ready to play today. So I would start him. I'm starting him on my sleeper league. I have him on a couple of my sleeper leagues, so I will be starting him. If that helps you out any with that question. So those are the main ones I had questions with on Twitter. Those are the main kind of injuries that people ask me about. But Kamara for sure. I even have Kamara in a couple of my leagues. But let's see how he trends next week, early in the next week. A lot of people think he's going to come back next week, but let's see how he looks early in the practice progression Monday and Tuesday. So.
I like it. Yeah, I mean, I have one. I can ask a question.
Yeah.
So I'm going back in between. This just starts a question more so than an injury, but it is injury as well. So Michael Pittman or Cordell Patterson. How do we feel? Say someone that I know that I'm asking for a friend had this situation. How we feel?
I'm gonna go with Cordell Patterson. Like I said, I really do feel like, those low grade high ankle sprains are easier to rehab, easier to heal. Again, he's had 2 weeks of limited practice, a lot of physical therapy, a lot of rehab. So, and again, I just liked what he was in for that offense. Ever since that injury, the offense has really been, dwindling down, and particularly with the offensive line playing poorly, he's going to be in a lot of snaps just from the pass protection standpoint. So I like him a lot in his return back. Again, I feel like he's a focal point. He's one thing that keeps the offense ticking a little bit, and he helps out Mike Ryan a lot as far as check downs and in pass pro. So I'm going to go with Cordell Patterson.
Really? I have Pittman in right now, and I like Pittman this week, but that's what I'm struggling between. It's just like how he's versatilely used. He has an easier matchup, I think, in Jacksonville than Pittman does in Tampa, even though it's not a daunting matchup in Tampa Bay. But I'm just a little worried. Like, what if we get another Jonathan Taylor blow-up game? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I also worry about Wentz in these big games and against this. He doesn't do well with a lot of interior pressures. And I just the Tampa Bay D-line is so strong and powerful. And that's always been Wentz's kind of like, downfall is the interior pressure, pass pressure. He really does not. He has happy feet that set his feet. And that's when a lot of his turnovers come from, the fumbles and also the interceptions. And I feel like they don't get a good interior push. So my whole concern with today, more than anything, I just feel like that front seven might give Wentz some problems. And I think that's probably what's going to cause a little bit more of a lesser day for Pittman for us fantasy production.
Ryan?
Man, I don't know. I agree. Like, Cordell Patterson is definitely involved a ton, but the risk of him not seeing what he normally would is enough for me to sit him for a guy like Pittman in a matchup like that. That I said I feel like it's going to be high scoring. Colts are probably going to try to lean on the run in order to keep that offense off the field, but Tampa's strong point is stopping the run. So they might have issues doing that. They might have to find different ways to move the football, and I feel like that's going to be through Michael Pittman if they need to. So,
Princesses are coming downstairs.
Apparently, got dogs coming down. What is going on here?
Slight interruption.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Oh, you're fine. It's only myself, I'm just sitting here in my own dilemmas of Pittman and Cordell Patterson.
So before us talking, what do you say you having Pittman in right now? You saying?
Yeah, I have Pittman in, basically just because I don't know if Patterson plays, but I worry about that. Like you said, the re-aggravation of the injury. I don't know if I can trust Michael Pittman. I don't trust Carson Wentz.
That's what I'm saying. Me too. On the big time games, Wentz and it's a big game for them, right? They've been winning. They need to keep up. They have trying to keep him with the playoff race. It's a really big game, and Carson Wentz in these big games, I just can't trust him in these big game moments. So,
Jonathan Taylor went off. They ran the ball a lot, but even when they did drop back to pass, you saw the Bills' pass rush really affect Carson Wentz. Mm-hmm. So, like you said, that front seven worries me in Tampa, and that's what worries me with Michael Pittman this week. Is that front seven going to get home and really affect Carson Wentz?
I would
not even allow him to throw the ball.
Yeah, I would think the kind of game like Daniel Jones. I feel like they're going to get after him, and then I feel like he's going to be in the run a lot. And Daniel Jones looked very uncomfortable on Monday. And I'm not saying Daniel Jones and Carson Wentz the same level quarterback, but I feel like they're going to definitely get him off this platform and make him very uncomfortable. So.
All right, I got one for you. Michael Pittman, DK Metcalf, or Kareem Hunt. Full PPR. Hit you guys with some more random questions.
It's DK for me.
Interesting. Why?
I just feel like he has the most upside. Kareem Hunt's coming off the injury. So even though I like his involvement in the offense, and I feel like they will be smart about him, if they weren't really ready for him to come back, knowing they have Chubb, he wouldn't be brought back. But the upside that DK possesses against a bad Washington secondary that's given up over 41 points in game to wide receivers, I'm willing to take that game on DK and Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Only reason I would agree with that is because Russell Wilson and the Seahawks have got to find a way to get it going here soon. So,
and their running game is banged up, so they're not going to be able to lean as much on the running game. So I feel like they're going to have to throw the ball quite a bit.
Yeah.
And DK's they're a big play guy, so
yeah. I would say high ceiling with DK, like Ryan said, you get a great floor with Hunt. So you're basically trying to outweigh kind of how the rest of your lineup looks. If you got a lot of other solid plays, then why not roll the dice with DK? So I would kind of agree with that, just from a ceiling perspective.
Yeah, I think Kareem Hunt has a pretty high ceiling, to be honest.
He does, especially considering that they only have really Jarvis Landry that's guaranteed to play and Austin Hooper that as receiving threats. He definitely could see 8 to 10 targets if he's fully healthy, but if they ease him in any way and his snap shares a little bit down, then it might cap his ceiling a little bit.
And the only reason I'm saying his ceiling is a little lower, his first game back from injury. Like, this is his first game playing. His conditioning is might be a little off. It's a lot of different factors in that. He hasn't played in what was it been 3-4 weeks now? So it's a lot of I think 5. Yeah. So I think from a conditioning standpoint, just trying to get his footing right, cutting, elusiveness, all those things, because it's his first in game in 5 weeks. That's the only thing that drops his ceiling down for me a little bit. And that's why I think he has a higher floor. I just feel like there's a lot of other factors that could, allow him to have a good game, but not that like high ceiling explosive game as he might have had if he wasn't injured. So
this came in 2 hours ago from Roto Baller. he's going to serve as a third down back. Obviously missing the last 5 games. They're going to try to ease him in a little bit, even with the big matchup. And you're likely to see a much more higher snap share for Nick Chubb than you were seeing at the beginning of the year with Hunt. So,
because you remember when Chubb came back from the calf, he split. It was probably about 60-40 with Dante Johnson when he first came his first game back. So that even kind of gave us kind of a landscape of how the Browns were going to go with it, because that's how they did with Chubb. So probably something very similar to how they did with Chubb and Ernest when Chubb came back from the calf.
Yeah.
All right, fair. I don't disagree. You know, I kind of feel like I just like Kareem Hunt. I feel like he gets in the end zone. I like DK. It just sometimes I get worried. DK, Lockett, which one's it going to be? Russell Wilson, are they going to run the ball? You know, it's just meh.
Yes.
I got a real meh one for you. Odell Beckham Jr., Devontae Freeman, Dontrell Hillard, Van Jefferson, full PPR.
One? You got to pick one or two?
Yeah, one. Start. It's not my own. These are just questions I'm finding on Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Who was it? Odell, Van Jefferson, Dontrell Hilliard, and who?
Devontae Freeman.
I feel like Freeman's probably the safest bet of that group. And then for some reason I keep wanting to start OBJ this week. There's just something like in my head saying start OBJ this week. I don't know why, but I don't know if it's because of the whole report that they were really focusing on getting him implemented and the fact that they need a second wide receiver to really step up, and he was brought there to do that. I don't know. If I'm chasing upside, I'm going to go with OBJ. If I'm chasing a safe floor, I'm going to go with Freeman.
Very interesting. I like Freeman. I just feel like he's getting really involved in the offense, even from a passing game perspective. Like I think he had like 6 or 7 targets last week with Huntley. And I can even see Lamar use him a little bit. And even in that Miami game, the last game Lamar played, he tried to utilize Freeman a lot from the backfield. You know, it's just Lamar and it's just Freeman and Murray. I feel like they have different skill sets. I feel like they use Murray for the short yardage situations, the ones that you need to get that tough 1 or 2 or 3. But I think any other situation you got Freeman in. So I think he's been the more explosive back, and I think there's the ones that they trust a little bit more, particularly from passing game situations. So I say Freeman. And then also in the red zone, you know, a lot of that zone read and Lamar poses a lot of threat to a lot of defenses. So if Ravens move the ball a lot, getting that red zone, I would say that the chances of Freeman getting that in the end zone are very, very high. So I'm gonna go with Freeman.
I like it. I like Freeman. I agree with everything you said there, Austin. I think Freeman's kind of becoming the guy there. He's seen a 58% snap share the last couple of weeks. However, I do think that I'm going to chase OBJ in this situation. I just want that upside, I think, in Green Bay, especially depending on how that game plays out. I know it's going to be cold. I don't know if it's snowing, but it is cold and it's windy up there. But either way, I think that OBJ gets heavily involved in this game. They try to focus him a little bit more than he was in the past week, now that he's involved. So I had a question for you guys. Just coming in 2 minutes ago. Terrace Marshall, inactive. Cy Smith is active, switching up the wide receiver core.
Very interesting.
How do we feel about this?
I guess they've been very unhappy with Terrace Marshall. And let me tell you something. Cy Smith explosive. I went to the open training camp with when the Ravens came, and it was in Charlotte. Shaw Smith is a good player. He reminds me of like a Debo Samuel-like type of player. And they both went to USC, but I'm telling you, like, aggressive, great after the catch, like very competitive. So we'll see how they utilize him, but I really, really, really like him. He was a good player. I liked him coming out the draft. I thought the Ravens should have maybe targeted him. So he's a good player.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. I liked Cy Smith coming out. I thought that he could definitely emerge as a slot type receiver for the Carolina Panthers in possibility, just because of his route running ability. Like you said, he's pretty physical over the middle. He's not afraid of contact. So I think it's interesting. Yeah, I don't know if they're just why they're necessarily changing it up. Obviously, there's something they haven't liked about Terrace Marshall either at practice or something in the past couple weeks. But it's definitely interesting. I don't know if any of them. Do you think Cy Smith brings any fantasy value? Like if you're in a real deep league and you need to add somebody?
No, because I just don't think. Because Terrace didn't get a lot of targets, did he? I mean, so no. Yeah, unless they're making him active for either special teams reasons or either is game plan dependent. So it's one of the two, right? Because I don't think Terrace Marshall gives you a lot of special teams value. So it could be something on that end as well. So it kind of depends on why they made that switch between those two. I would say Shaw Smith probably has a lot higher special teams value. So he might that might be the reason why he's active, as opposed to from an offensive game plan situation. So.
Fair. We got a question. Chase, Godwin, Devonte Smith, Bateman, Elijah Mitchell, Javonte Williams, and Antonio Gibson needs one wide receiver and two flex positions out of this list.
Well, one we should all agree on.
UP or UPB 25. Is it PPR real quick? We'll wait for his answer. Joshua brought in Stafford or Cam Newton. For me, it's Cam Newton. I like the rushing floor, the rushing touchdown upside. And I think Cam Newton's here to prove a point. He's looked good in the last couple of weeks. I know he had limited touches in Arizona, but he's looked good. I like the offense. And Matthew Stafford is completely and utterly banged up in a very cold Green Bay atmosphere. So not saying that he's going to be bad, but I feel like there's a higher percentage that he plays worse than Cam Newton does. I just like Newton's rushing upside. I feel like he is pretty safe to get you close to 20 points just because of that. Ryan or Austin, whoever would like to go next?
I like the rushing upside of Cam Newton here. Miami is allowing the 27th most points to quarterbacks at 19.8 per game this year. And they are going against a Miami team that just in general has not been very good. They're going to be playing without two defensive backs and could also be without their starting safety, Brandon Jones, who's questionable with ankle and elbow injuries, which would be a pretty significant loss for Miami because he's the guy that was expected to man CMC the most and also help in containing Cam the best they could. So if he is out, it would be a pretty big loss according to reports out of Miami. So I'm going to go with Cam Newton.
He's out. So great point.
Brandon Jones is out.
He's inactive. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm rolling with Cam Newton there. I feel like he could be in for a multi-touchdown game, whether it be rushing or passing. And Stafford offers that upside throwing the ball, but he doesn't offer the rushing upside that Cam Newton does. So their upsides, I just feel like Cam has a higher upside with his legs than Stafford does with his arms in general.
Yeah, I would agree with y'all. Cam Newton, I just love the upside from the red zone perspective. We've seen what he's already done in the red zone in the two games he's played. So I love it that if they get into that minus 20, he's going to be a heavy involved type of player to create opportunities there for the team. Just some notes with some actives and inactives. Cordell Patterson's active. Saquon is active. Damien Harris is active. Stevenson is active. Hunter's active. Judy Smith. And Vita Vea, which is a big one for Tampa. He is active today. Inactives include Corey Davis, Tony Rudolph, Alden Tate, Deion Jones, and Justin Reed. Those are the biggest ones I had on my list. Were the biggest ones right there. And also, like you said, Brandon Jones for the Dolphins is also well. He was one on my list as well.
All right. UPB 25 says it is PPR. So we need one wide receiver and 2 flex positions out of this list. Ryan, lead us off.
Oh, why you gotta come to me first?
You had to know.
So I feel like the given is Chase here, right? Like, I feel like that's the locked in.
We all got to agree on that one. Yeah.
Surefire start here.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
no.
I'm just messing with you guys. I'm just messing.
What?
I'm just messing with you guys. Relax.
Okay, I'm about to say, oh no.
It's not a funny joke. I didn't need that as a real thing.
That Steelers defense too? Oh my goodness. He's gonna have a field day, I feel like, today.
Yeah, so for me, it's definitely Chase. I feel like Devonta Smith is a pretty strong start here too. And then I'm going to roll with Godwin here. I think Chase, Godwin, and Smith.
That's what you was going with?
I think so, yeah.
I'm going to switch it up on y'all then. I'm going to go Chase for sure. Again, that's probably going to be unanimous. That's going to be – everybody's going to do that one. I say Chase, Devonte Smith, as you will. I think he's coming along very strong. I think he's finally like figuring it out from a rookie receiver, which we know is a really large learning curve for a rookie receiver, and I think he's coming along real well. So I got Chase, Devonte Smith, but my sleeper I think is Javonte Williams. I think he's just a great back. I love how his elusiveness and how he makes people miss kind of in those early yardage situations. It allows him to get to the second level. And then, like I said, I don't like the Chargers run D at all. And we know the Broncos love the running game, setting up with the play action. So I like Javonte Williams, Smith, and then Chase. Those will be my
3. Yeah, I'm going to take Jamar Chase. I like Chris Godwin still in this matchup. I think this game could be good. And I'm going to take Devonta Smith. I'm just going to go with Chase, Godwin, and Smith. I think all 3 are heavily involved in a PPR league. You're looking for those targets necessarily, so that's where I'm going to go. I think all the 3 of these guys have touchdown upside as well. I do like Javonte Williams. I just don't see him exceeding his floor. I mean, his floor is 10. I mean, his ceiling's 15. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't get much higher than that just because Melvin Gordon's still very good. So I feel like you're talking about Javonte Williams gets you that safe 10 points. He's a safe play. I like him against them. He could get to that 15 with a touchdown. But I feel like Chase, Godwin, and Devonta Smith could both get you 30 points. So I'm going to roll with those 3. It just seems like they all should and will have big games today, in my opinion. So that's where I'm at. That's what I got.
Like it too.
Oof. Dontrell Hillard. I got a question. Do we trust Dontrell Hillard today against New England? Hypothetically, say you had this situation. Dontrell Hillard, Deontay Foreman. Oh, here's another question, but hold on. Dontrell Hillard, Deontay Foreman, Ty Johnson. Which one do you think scores the most PPR points today?
Foreman, just because reports are that he's going to get the bulk of the carries and opportunities. Now, if it's a blowout, then you do have to say that Hillard might be better as like a passing option. So it depends on, to me, it's game script dependent. So how the game flow is going to me. Blowout, Hillard. If it's a tight one, I feel like Foreman. So to me, that's the biggest kind of thing you got to weigh is basically, you're looking at the point spread. Do you trust that the Titans that are really banged up, they can give the Patriots a fight? If you don't think they can, then I will go with Hillard.
Ryan?
I'm going to go with Ty Johnson here. The matchup with Houston is relatively nice to running backs. The 23rd against running backs, 26 points allowed, averaging over 4.7 yards per carry. Tevin Coleman did see the majority of the rushing work after Michael Carter went down, but Ty Johnson's going to see the PPR upside. He's going to see more than the handful of carries that he was seeing before they went down. And even when Zach Wilson was in the lineup, he was one of the guys that still saw a consistent target share, even had 12 carries in one of the games against New England. So for me, it's Ty Johnson. I just think that the New England defense is going to focus on stopping the run. I feel like they're going to say, hey, beat us with what you got in Ryan Tannehill, and just kind of go from there. I don't see Tennessee getting the ball a whole lot. I just don't see that game being very high scoring for the Titans. So I'm going to go with Ty Johnson.
So I got a couple of things just to hit on for his injuries. Joe Hayden is inactive, which would mean that Chase is a definitely big time green light today. Looking at my injury chart, the defensive linemen of the Vikings are severely injured. There's some injury report on all four of the starting defensive linemen. So big rushing day for the 49ers. So I do like Elijah Mitchell, particularly in the running down and then rushing game. But just watch him limiting with that finger with the pass protection and also with the catching ability out of the backfield. But since there is a high injury kind of report on the Vikings D-line, particularly up front, and then Griffin is out dealing with the mental health. Now I'm looking for a big day from the 49ers. So
nice.
I'll get on that later. Yeah.
I will say that I think it was actually Deebo Samuel that saw a ton of work out of the back. I think he saw not even a ton, but he saw a decent amount of work out of the backfield. So if you have him in your lineup and never thought about sitting him, I would strongly advise.
Strongly advise, because usually I chart each position for his injury, and they have 4 red dots for me. So on the front 4. So that means, and that includes Griffin. So there's other 3 injuries on there. So I would definitely, even though they might be active, still I feel like they were on the injury report. So I would definitely look for Deebo and Elijah Mitchell to be very heavily involved in the running game today.
All right. So UPB also has Cooks, Henderson, Javonte Williams, Chenault, pick one and flex. Already started Diggs, Renfro, and Carr. I think it will depend for me on, like, do you feel like you have a safe lead, or do you feel like you need the upside? If you're chasing an upside play here in PPR, maybe Brandon Cooks. If you want a safe play, I'm either playing Henderson or Javonte. I'm probably going to start Javonte in the safe play, just because I feel like he will get you 10 points. Just kind of seems like where he's been, that 8 to 10 range. But he also has the upside of 15. So I'd probably say Javonte with who you have started already. Seems like you have a pretty good jump. So Brian or Austin?
I just like Brandon Cooks, like you said. You said earlier, I just really believe in him as a player, and his success in that offense and his utilization in that offense. So I like Cooks just from a ceiling and a floor perspective. At any point, because of the target share he gets, he can have a very explosive game just from just how many targets he gets. So I would expect today for him to get 8 to 10 targets. I like him in that offense, so I would probably have to pick Cooks.
Ryan?
So he says he's currently up 63 to 29, roughly. Opponent has 8 guys left. he has 5 left remaining, including Jonathan Taylor, Justin Jefferson, DJ Moore, and Austin Eckler. So for me, looks like he probably needs a safe floor guy just to not get a dud anywhere. So for me, I think the least likely to get you a dud is Javonte against the Chargers rushing defense. To be honest, because Cooks is really dependent on what Tyrod does. And we saw last week where Cooks wasn't really heavily involved. That's because Tyrod was using his legs an awful lot. In a matchup where they could be running the ball an awful lot, he could be the guy that, out of this group anyways, that sees a few. Maybe Chenault is more likely to be a dud. But for me, I'd go with the safe floor Javonte against the Chargers.
Yeah, I feel like with the lineup and who he has and who he's walking out there, I mean, Justin Jefferson, JT, DJ Moore, Eckler, like, I'll take the 10 points from Javonte Williams and
Right.
know that, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to chase Brandon Cooks, who might give me 3 like he did last week in a favorable matchup as well. So it just kind of feels like, I just feel like that's where, you know what I mean? I just kind of feel, I like it. But I don't hate Brandon Cooks. I think it's a good matchup, but.
Jeremy, I'm surprised. You love Cook so much. I'm surprised.
I know.
That's shocking to me.
I know. But it's really dependent for me sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I do. I like Brandon Cooks. I still like him this week. I just feel like in his scenario or her scenario that, like, Javonte Williams just feels like you want that safe, just get me 10 points. And, like, I don't know. Yeah, he has 8 guys left. Like, yeah.
I have a question for you guys. Today, Thaddeus Moss is going to be active for the first time in his career. As we know, Chase, Burrow, and Moss all played LSU together. So do you feel like he has any fantasy value? And you know, Jamar Chase loves, Uzma. He likes the tight end usage, even baiting back to LSU. Do you feel like he might be fantasy relevant? Maybe not today, but do you feel like it's trending towards that? Because this is his first game in his NFL career, so I'm assuming they're trying to get him involved in the offense a little bit. So, and I'm pretty sure that's big on Jamar Chase because he's pounded the table for Jamar, and he's probably pounded the table for Moss as well. So,
I'm gonna say no. Aside from him completely coming out and like balling out the second half of the season, this year in the draft, I feel like there's going to be a lot of mid-level possible tight end talent. So I just don't know if Moss has had his opportunity. He had it in Washington. He has it here now. Like, he has to take advantage of it to secure that role. Like tight ends, they flow through. They add guys, they add them, and it just, if you hit or you hit, you don't. So it's interesting. I'm going to monitor it. Like you said, just coming from LSU, he could have that potential. But I don't know. I mean, if I'm in a real deep sleeper, like in a real deep dynasty league, yeah, I'll add Thad Moss just for that pure chance because it is a high volume passing offense. And you've seen, like you said, what Uzma's done, who's not a super athletic guy, but he's a fairly athletic tight end. So I don't know. Yeah. It's worth a look. You know what I mean? He's going to have to show it this year, I feel. Otherwise, they might draft somebody that was more of a receiving option. There's going to be a couple of those guys coming out this year that are not going to be as highly touted as like Kyle Pitts or Freiermuth. So you'll be able to get them in those later rounds, and it'll be more cost effective for a team to take a risk on them.
I would agree. This is a shot because we know he has very limited special team value. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's a great blocking tight end at the point of attack. So I'm assuming they are really making him active for the passing game.
Like a 2 tight end sets or something.
Yeah, so I mean, you're right. If he can't make most of this opportunity, and you're right, then he'll probably be it for him.
I mean, he was hurt all year last year, right? Like he tore something at the very beginning of the year, and he was out basically all year. I don't know if it was an Achilles or an ACL or what it was that he tore, but I'm pretty sure he tore something at the beginning of last year, and so didn't get an opportunity. So I'm with Jeremy in the speculative ad for a deeper dynasty league. I'm all for that. Just because tight end is such a crapshoot, you never really know what might hit. And if Uzama were to go down, I mean, it very well could be him. That's the tight end one in Cincy if he's able to do at least a little bit of something on the field today. So he's definitely worth a speculative ad just because of the offense and the pedigree that he comes with, but nothing more than that, in my opinion.
Another tight end question: Tyler Higbee, Noah Fant, or Patty Freiermuth? Austin, I'll let you start.
Higbee, Fant. I feel like Higbee in that scheme is just it's just a good play. I like the tight ends in the Ram system. So I just feel like they're going to be involved, and they're going to be just a focal point of the offense. So I like Higbee, particularly with Robert Woods going out. I think you use a lot of them on those drags and overs and a lot of those crossing type of passing concepts. So I like Higbee a lot, particularly in Green Bay, where I feel they're going to have trouble moving the ball. I think they're going to have to definitely depend more on the intermediate routes from Higbee, from Kupp. So I feel like those two are going to be very highly involved today in Green Bay.
I like Freiermuth personally. I think his involvement in the red zone is going to be huge, and I think that he has the potential for a touchdown. So I'm going to take him over Higbee and Fant. I feel like Fant, you're going to have to deal with Jerry Judy. You're going to have to deal with – is Alberto active? I don't know if he's hurt because he's also heavily involved when active. So I'm a little bit out on that.
Alberto is active and was the leading receiver last week.
Yeah. So for me, I'm a little bit more towards the Freiermuth side of this. So how about you, Ryan?
I'm not benching Freiermuth for honestly hardly anybody outside of like Kelsey or Kittle or Waller or maybe Hawkinson, and that's really about it. He's seen at least 7 targets in 5 straight games, I think it is. Scored a touchdown in 4 of the last 5. He's just too involved now. That seems to be Ben's favorite target in the red zone. With Ebron being out for the year, Ebron going down is what really got him involved in the first place. And now that he's out for the year, I'm not sitting Freiermuth unless I absolutely have to in leagues anymore. Higbee is involved heavily at times, and other times he sees 3 targets, and I'm not willing to bench a guy with the upside of Freiermuth that's been consistently involved for a guy that has a wide range of tight end target outcomes like Higbee.
Love it. Patty Freiermuth. I loved Freiermuth, and I beat a drum that in your fantasy drafts you should have waited on Freiermuth over Kyle Pitts. Just saying.
It's true.
Yeah,
just
you're right.
because of pure value standpoint, I love Kyle Pitts. Don't get me wrong, I do very much so. But just a value standpoint, you're taking Pitts at like the 4th pick when you could have had like Jamar Chase.
Who he's saying?
Or
Pitts has let me down, man. Pitts has let me down.
Would you rather have Kyle Pitts and like Terrace Marshall right now, or would you rather have had Jamar Chase and Pat Freiermuth? You know what I'm saying? That's kind of where you were looking at in rookie drafts, I feel like.
Pitts is not having necessarily a bad year. I mean, he's like
second
tight end yardage. They're just such like up and down. Like the offense struggles so bad. It makes it tough for him. So.
Yeah, I mean Pitts is the better player. I'm not saying that. I'm just value standpoints.
No, definitely.
But Graham has, should I start AJ Dillon or Aaron Jones if Jones plays in full PPR?
Jones, I highly doubt Jones plays. So go ahead and start Dillon. I'm literally 85-90% sure he won't play today.
I'm starting Dillon.
I think he's asking if Jones is active. Like I think he rosters both. So like if Jones is playing, should he start? Which one should he start? You know what I'm saying?
Dillon either way, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm gonna go Dillon anyway. I don't, even if Jones does play, which I highly doubt. I feel like he's going to be on limited touches, obviously, 10 to 15. So I would still go more Dillon.
Yeah, I think for me, if Aaron Jones plays, it means that they're fully confident. So I'm gonna play Aaron Jones if he plays. And the only reason I say that is because they do have a bye week. So as a medical staff, if they're gonna clear him, he has to be like almost 100% in my opinion. I know he's beating a drum that he wants to play, but like if they're going to activate him, he has to be healthy enough to use, in my opinion. So I think Aaron Jones is a better option in what will probably be a somewhat of a pass-heavy game. So I prefer Aaron Jones if he's active. But if they say, hey, we're activating him with limited touches, then I'd probably go with A.J. Dillon. But I highly doubt Aaron Jones plays. I would be very surprised if they put him out there. So I think, Graham, you'll be easy with just starting A.J. Dillon. But if Aaron Jones plays, I'm all in for starting him. I just think the PPR upside's too high. And I think they wouldn't put him in the risk if he wasn't at least like 80% healthy. You know what I mean? So that's at least.
They did say that they were happy with how he fared in practice through the 3 limiteds that he had. But knowing they have a bye this week, if they were to play him and he tears his MCL or he does something to his ACL or anything like that, if he re-injures it, if it makes it worse, they're going to be kicking themselves for even playing him. So if they want a Super Bowl run, I wouldn't be playing him in a Week 12 matchup.
No. And like I said, I mentioned earlier in the show, they historically have one of the more conservative medical staffs in the NFL. So even just knowing like how they approach certain injuries and rehabilitation and also the healing process of certain ligamentous and connective tissue injuries, like I said, it's very highly unlikely he plays.
I like it. Dan Arnold, what do we think, guys? Do we think Dan Arnold has a good day against the 49ers or against Atlanta or not?
I think so, because if I saw the inactives right, I think they had 2 other tight ends that were inactive. So
yeah, Luke Farrell and Jacob Hollister are inactive.
Yeah,
but James O'Shaughnessy's in, but
if it's going to be a week,
really the receiving option, but
yeah. So
is Deion Jones playing?
Deion Jones is inactive.
He's not playing.
Deion Jones is inactive.
So I would say roll the dice. I say yeah.
I think he's a top 10 play then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I think we just saw it last week where the 49ers, who are not terrible against tight ends, but they were able to shut him down. And we just didn't see his normal usage. But other than that, I mean, he's seen 7, 10, 11 targets in games. He's their clear passing option outside of Marvin Jones. I know they've touted and said that they want to get Shenault involved a little bit more now with Agnew down, but I still like Dan Arnold with the way the tight end landscape is. I think against Atlanta, he has a good opportunity to return what he has been most of the season, which is a double-digit tight end play, even without touchdowns. So I'm going to take that risk. I like him, obviously depending on who you're starting him over, but I think he's a tight end 1 this week, so he's pretty startable for me.
Yeah, I mean, prior to last week, 8 targets, 7, 10, 5, 8. So he's consistently involved in that offense and in a game that could potentially – he's a guy that you should be plugging in your lineup, especially with Deion Jones being inactive. That's a huge loss for Atlanta's defense. He's debatably their best defensive player, and having him there is a big boost for them. So with him being out, Dan Arnold should have a nice day in the middle of the field.
I like it. So Ryan N has Odell or Galladay in half PPR tough options. Ryan, since you were just talking, we'll let you lead it off.
Thanks. So for me, I'm hearing that new offensive coordinator Freddie Kitchens is going to take a more aggressive approach. So Galladay could be in store for some more work, especially with Sterling Shepard, Tony, Caden Smith, and Kyle Rudolph all being out today. Saquon, I don't know if he was one of your guys that's listed as active, but I'm pretty sure I heard you say he is active.
No, he is. Yeah, he's active.
So with him being there, it might bring Galladay's targets down a little bit. But I actually like the the upside that Galladay brings with all the injuries to that receiving core in general. Philly's actually been really tough against wide receivers. They're allowing the second fewest points to wide receivers to start the year here, and with it being half PPR, it makes it a little bit different. But I still like Galladay with all the injuries. We don't know what Odell's going to be. I keep saying that I want to start Odell this week, but hearing that Freddie Kitchens is going to be more aggressive, hearing all the injuries that are coming out of the Giants' receiving core, I'm going to start Galladay here.
I'm going to go with Odell. I just think Galladay, he has all the physical talents. I just feel like he just doesn't have the work ethic, the motivation, the hunger, and the competitiveness. It's like when you see him run his routes, when you see him play, he has times where you don't see like the passion and the love. So I'm gonna go with Odell. That's one thing about Odell. He's always been passionate about his craft, and I love that competitiveness. I love the want to from Odell. Galladay just seems like a very lazy player, and I feel like he's been injured too. So, and there were reports of that when he left Detroit about his work ethic and things like that. So, I like your point with Freddie Kitchens being more aggressive. So I do think that plays here, but I still would just roll the dice more with Odell, just because I like the work ethic, the motivation, the hunger over one player over the other, and to me that makes a big difference. So, particularly as a receiver, because receiver you have to work hard, right? You have to sell certain routes, right? You have to sell the goals, you got to sell the hitches, you got to sell these routes. And I feel like a lot of that comes with work ethic, motivation, and hunger. And I give that to Odell over Galladay. So I'll go with Odell.
Yeah, he has the options of Crowder as well, or he could pick up Chenault instead of either of these guys. Personally, I'm just going to roll Odell. A lot of stuff you guys hit on, but I just like Odell's opportunity a little bit better. The offense is a little bit more high-powered. It's a more important game. To me, the Giants, just when Galladay signed, I didn't like it. Galladay's not a Daniel Jones receiver. Jones needs that separation. He doesn't necessarily like to throw the 50-50 ball at times. And Galladay's kind of just always been that for his career. He's kind of a 50-50 guy. He doesn't create a ton of separation. So I just don't love Kenny Galladay, and I think he's just proven this year that he just kind of isn't a super high-end fantasy option. And Odell Beckham Jr. is going to give you that opportunity in what is a high-powered offense. So I'm going to take it even in a limited role. I'll risk it because OBJ could easily see a touchdown and he could break one big, where Galladay, I don't really see that happening. Nick has, do I play Aaron Jones over Ty Johnson in the hopes that he plays, or would you start he'd have to start DJ Dallas if Jones is inactive. I'm going to start Ty Johnson as long as the rest of your lineup looks pretty good and you don't feel like you need a yeah, I'm just going to start Ty Johnson. I think no matter what, DJ Dallas to Ty Johnson, the drop-off there's a lot. I still think – I know Alex Collins is on the injury report, but it seems like Collins is kind of the guy they want it to be more than DJ Dallas. So Ty Johnson, I think, has the opportunity to be the guy. Tevin Coleman's seen some rushing work, but through the air, it's Ty Johnson. So if it's PPR, I think he has a huge upside this week. Definitely double-digit upside, where Aaron Jones – he might not play. So, anything different from you guys?
Nope. Ty Johnson. I just don't like the upside or just the overall projection for DJ Dallas. So I'm gonna go with Ty Johnson.
Garrett has Brandon Ayuk or Marquis Brown full PPR.
Going Brown. I know I've been on Brown about the injuries, but compared to those. In comparison to Ayuk, I'm going to go with Brown just because he's more involved in offense. Again, I believe he's around 25% target share with Lamar. So I take that opportunity, even though he might have limited snaps coming back from a hamstring injury. I just feel like he's more involved in offense than Ayuk. So I'm going to go with Marquise.
Yeah, I'm going to risk it with Marquise Brown here as well. I think his upside's a little bit higher than Brandon Ayuk's, just purely because he seems to be – he's the guy when he's healthy. I know Watkins and Bateman are all active now, so we're going to see kind of this wide receiver core in a whole role. But Marquise Brown could break one and give you 30 points, where Brandon Ayuk I think he has a decent game. I just there's a lot. Debo Samuel's there, George Kittle. They're both kind of messy, but I just like what Marquis Brown has shown us that he's a wide receiver 1 in the past. Brandon Ayuk has last year. This year he's kind of getting there, but I'm going to roll with Brown. I think I'll risk it. Ryan?
Yeah, if Brown is active, I'm leaning his way too. He's seen double-digit targets in 4 of his last 5 games, 5 games total for the year. So if he's active, I'm going to play him over Ayuk, who it could be a George Kittle game, could be a huge Debo game, could see a huge running workload. I mean, it's too inconsistent for me to start him over a guy like Ayuk or Brown, who sees a ton of targets when he's active.
All right. I like it. All right, guys. Ryan, you got 95 lineups to set. I have less.
27, man. 27.
How you been? How'd you do last week, Ryan? Pretty good?
Actually, yeah. I was 20-7 last week.
Ooh, that's real good.
I have less because I just gave up. So, not really. I mean, there's some leagues.
You can't just give up.
There's just some leagues that I just, I just look at it and I had to start Peyton Barber in a league and he was inactive. So that's the story of my fantasy league. So
start Peyton Barber?
Yeah, it was okay. I'm in a rough state. Okay. I've had a lot of teams that had Dobbins and Edwards and ETN and all the running backs who got hurt. Okay. All right, Austin.
All right.
Enough of your sass. Enough of your sass. Okay.
It really has been a tough year for the running back.
Jeremy's teams are going to look completely different next year. He's gonna draft completely differently. I guarantee it.
I think I am.
No, because I'm going to dump a ton of leagues because I'm in like 30 and it's too many and I can't take it.
I was heavy on Dobbins. I was heavy on Dobbins and Edwards too. I mean, man, I could just imagine that offense with them two.
Oh, can you with what Freeman's doing right now? Can you imagine what J.K. Dobbins would be doing?
Oh my gosh! And Dobbins was going to have a career. I thought he was.
He was about to be.
Yeah, huge. It was going to be huge. I mean, I honestly, we might not even lose a game for one for them because the games we lost were the Raiders' first game. Who was we lose to? Dolphins, and then who was the last? Oh, the Bengals when they blew us out. So we might still lose the Bengals game, but them other two with those guys, I just don't. Yeah.
Just changes your whole philosophy on offense.
No, and then also defense too. Marcus Peters being out, like I just never see. And then we might not even have Calais Campbell today because of concussion. So our injuries have just been insane. Like every week is something different. Yeah.
All right. Ryan, why don't you let everybody know where they can find you, and we'll close this out. And then Austin, you can go next.
Yeah, of course, you can find me on Twitter at Mackie_FFB. Obviously, inboxes are always open. I'll be posting a thing here as soon as we get off here about any more start-sit questions you might have. Like Jeremy said, I do have just about 30 of my own leagues I need to finish setting up, but I will be able to answer questions periodically here and there before kickoff. Yeah, good luck to everybody. Thank you for stopping in. Thanks for all the questions. Hope you guys continue to do so, and hope we gave you some good advice again this week. And best of luck to everybody else.
Okay. Austin Williams. You can catch me on Twitter at Fantasy DPT. I write articles also for Yard Per Fantasy. Got some things coming up on weekly big injuries, so you can check over there by there. That's who I write for. Also, you can catch me on Instagram, AFitPT. If you want to learn a little bit more about PT, some of the treatments I do, some of my training sessions with NFL players, some other just basic treatments. There's some cool videos of manual therapy techniques and things I do. So if you want to learn just more about the human body, there's educational things on there as well. Human body and then just physical therapy in general. My Instagram is a little bit more of down that way. So again, that's AFitPT on Instagram. I take any questions, no matter if it's fantasy or just musculoskeletal questions. Just shoot away. I'm here to help people out. I want people to be healthy, active, and have their fantasy leagues booming. So ask me questions. I'm here for you. Thanks for staying tuned, and I enjoyed the show.
Love it. There you go. Follow both of them. Check them out. It's great. You can find me if you wish to follow the least important person of this group at Popes FFH on Twitter. Any of my writing is over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network and or Yards Per. Hopefully our advice gives you the win. Until next week.
Hey, question. I have one more thing, Jeremy.
Oh,
Where'd you get your Twitter handle from? What's Popes FFH? What is that?
Okay, so
I've been meaning to ask you that.
Pope is my nickname because my last name is Popelars, so it's kind of just been like my nickname since like I was like in middle school. Just kind of stuck. And then FFH is it's fantasy football hours, what it used to stand for. I attempted a podcast a while back by myself, and that's what it was going to be. And so I started the Twitter for it last year, and then I just kind of kept with that one as my fantasy Twitter, and just kind of,
I like it.
It stuck. It's a little different, you know what I'm saying?
But I like the nickname. I'm gonna start calling you Pope. No more Jeremy. I'm a nickname type of guy. So the Pope.
Yeah. There it is. All right.
All right, fellas. See you next week.
Till next week, guys.
Sure.